Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And I'm still looking for Lou Holtz. He gonna drop Ohio State down 5 spots and think he could get away with that. But tonight, we watching the sorry-ass Commanders getting it done to them by the Bears, getting treated like a bunch of meatballs. You know what I'm saying? Then we got some more NFL picks, some college picks, some get it off my chest. Sports Reports is Ordered is here. I am 25, and that's Mr. Logical. Jersey stand up.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Logical, what is the word?
The word is Justin Fields heard all the chatter and was like, oh, I took that personally.
Ooh, did you see this? Ooh.
I don't like that face. No, I don't want that
No,
face.
look. No, look real quick. Like, so Justin Fields, third down, throwing the pass, and awkward catch. Like,
yeah,
awkward catch.
They better
Yeah,
get him a
there you
catch.
go. Yeah, he's still on the ground. Like they had to go to commercial, but Khalil Herbert, so maybe we'll see my guy Rashawn Johnson, rest in peace, Dick Buckus. But yeah, so we're here. Sports Reports is ordered back, saying back in full effect. And it is that
day
time
off.
of show.
I was out of town. Had to go out of
Yes.
town a little bit, Sometimes you just gotta recharge your battery. I took my opportunity over the last weekend to do just that, get some of that fresh mountain air. A lot of beer. Shout out to the Garrett. My family out in Utah.
Go. Yes. Shout
Jax,
out to
Heather,
the
Jeff,
48th Rescue Squadron.
Matt, Chanel, Presley, Liam, my squad. Aunt Boogie, even though you didn't link up with me. It's cool.
Come on, Boogie.
Get off my chest. Get off my chest before we get what we got. Really, like, mine is simple. Boxing, you're in a situation right now where you're getting the big fights, you're getting the attention, and then the other guys that should be trying to make equally as big fights in between these other big fights be making these little fights. Like, I don't care who got the belt. The UFC style. Chael Sonnen was just calling people out in post-fight interviews of fights he wasn't even a part of. It was getting championships. Now, I mean, so it's like, sometimes you just got to make the fight for the fans. Whether it's Davis and like Tank Davis and Shakur or Haney. Like, just make it happen. Like, I don't care about the belts.
Tiafomo.
You guys are the most popular guys, the most social media guys. The Ryan Garcia Tank rematch, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you do it to where, because I know like the catch weight apparently threw Ryan Garcia off. We'll do it, make it a little different so the fans see one thing. Charlo, like, listen, you just ran around the ring for 36 minutes with Canelo Alvarez, and then you talking about you want to take on a guy that we just watched beat a man half to death in the ring. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. Like Caleb Plant, he smacked the other twin in the face before the Bud Spence fight. That's off the rip. That's fodder for them to fight. If anybody never seen the movie called The Great White Hype, Samuel Jackson, Damon Wayans, I think Peter Berg, it's a couple of actors, mid-90s movie. Basically, Samuel Jackson was the Don King character, and he drummed up like basically a 3-fight combo for the people. Like, he set it up to where one guy, got hit, whatever. But he took advantage of the hype that comes along with boxing and maximize it. These guys are in a hype window right now, and people are being picky. Like, I want 60-40. I want this. I want that. I'm like, Get out there and fight. Your buzz will go crazy because people are just like the Earl Spence Bud Crawford fight had people clamoring for another dope fight, and then we got the Canelo Charlo, and it's like, man, if this Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury thing flops, people gonna fall off from boxing because everybody else is gonna start to peel back. They're gonna start getting real conservative. Strike while the iron's hot. I mean, it's not just a catchphrase; it's like a real thing you can
Well,
do.
wasn't it Haney had a chance to fight Shakur, but then he went up in weight or something?
Yeah, but I'm like, I think that's kind of the nuance of the boxing rules about like who you have to fight, when you have to defend it. Just ignore all that. Sit down and say, like, yo, let's get this money because people want to buy. It's like when they release Jordans back to back to back to back. People gonna be in line for that. But if you release one in June and then you give me a bunch of bogus colorways from July to November, yeah, I might line up in December for it.
Right.
Did I get it up? I might line up in December for it. But you had me from June to November. You didn't give me anything. Give me something then. And I think boxing is in that window. And I think they're going to squander it by not putting guys out there to really fight. This last fight, like there's two grown men in the ring for 36 minutes, and neither one of them looked like they've been in a fight for 36 minutes.
Yeah, and you know, I thought he got knocked down, but he took the knee on his own. I think it was the
Now he
seventh
got
round.
rocked. Yeah, he got
Well, he got
rocked.
rocked, but I'm saying he took the knee though. He didn't get knocked down. He got rocked, but then he just went down to a knee on his own to
What I
avoid what was coming
what I
next.
think it was, I think he probably took a mean hook through the guard early on in the fight and realized like, oh, Canelo is like this is the weight that Canelo has been needing to fight at his whole career. I think he realized that early on, like, yo, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be able to knock this dude out. He hit me hard as hell through my guard because I didn't see any clean shots. Granted, I was drinking moonshine and apple juice, but I don't recall too many clean shots from either boxer. But I do recall like literally dude just ran
Oh,
around for
Canelo
12
definitely
rounds.
landed some. Yeah, he definitely landed some.
But like, after he would land one, Charlo would just run. And Canelo was
Yeah.
like, I think Canelo realized, like, yo, this dude's gonna run for me this whole fight. So
Well, I think it
I'm gonna
was the
win on
thing.
points
Remember,
every single round.
remember we were talking about Georgia and South Carolina, and I said something to the effect of Shane Beamer when he plays Georgia, he almost plays not to get embarrassed versus trying to win. So I think Charlo at some point made a decision of I'm not getting knocked out, you know, because like I said, I think Canelo did rock him really good. He took the knee to get the break, you know, and after that, it was like no mas. Like we're just
But
gonna get through this fight.
realistically, man, that was probably the only clean shot I can really recall that came through the guard and everything clean. There was no blood, there was no swelling. It just was legitimately he caught a few punches through the guard. It gets I'm not gonna front like I can go out there for 36 minutes and box anybody at any weight. But if that's what you train to do, and you did all this promotion, and you had people paying 89.99 for this fight, or people paying whatever they're paying, you got to put on the show. Your next fight is already devalued by the way you performed in this one. And then
Right,
with the people around you not generating a buzz, that brings it down even more because the Spence Crawford fight was up here because people were just like, we haven't seen a fight like that in a minute where like
right,
two champs and one just dominates the other one so strategically. It wasn't like he caught him with like a lucky hook, like Rockman caught Lennox Lewis and it was a wrap. It was like, or like the Anthony Ruiz.
be more.
It was like when he really chopped them up, like, oh, boom, 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 hit him with the strong jab. And I think it was such a buzz off of that everybody should have been trying to get the big fight for the rest of the summer. And like, no
Right.
one did. And we're not going to care. I'm telling you, people, we got NBA, we got the NFL in full effect. It's shaping up to be dope. We'll talk about that. Then you have NBA basketball coming back. We got Dame Lillard trade. We got the Drew Holiday trade. We got people moving. It's not going to be a lot of buzz for anything outside of that from November to February. You
Yeah,
have the
you got the
summer.
Super Bowl coming up, national titles coming up.
College football
hockey starting their red zone channel.
rolling and right into March Madness. Oh, this is stuff that just generates a buzz for people. And it's like, yo, I don't know if the money is really clouding people that much, but let's keep it a bean. If you're a promoter and you have $30 million in your bank account and $30 million in assets, why are you penny pinching this fight so you can get $4 more million? Put the
Right,
fight on and watch what happens. Put the fight
right,
on to where I want to pay for the rematch. Give me that fight. I want to see the Bud Crawford Spence rematch. I don't want him to fight somebody else because we've had that before where it's like we want to see the rematch of the fight we just saw. Nah, he gonna fight this other dude that no one cares about other than the WBO or WBC or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm like, I think you're in the entertainment business. And we were talking earlier about the Rock's people's elbow. The Rock did the people's elbow yesterday. He's been doing that move for 25 years. It was equally as exciting yesterday as it was in 1998
for
because
y'all,
the buzz when,
for
when he kicked
y'all.
when you land on there flat and he kicked that arm, people go crazy. Like when Kanye hit that one key on Runaway, ding, and people go ape.
Nah,
It's just one of those things. Boxing
nah.
doesn't
People's
have
elbow
that.
died for me in like '03.
Listen, call it what you want. People went bananas last night for it.
2-5. but
But that's just me. I'm saying is like, listen, strike while the iron's hot. Get the big fights. Take take less of the split and get more on the back end. Do the Floyd Mayweather did it. He was like, I'm gonna make these fights. Y'all want to see me lose? Cool. I'm gonna fight the next guy y'all think is gonna beat me, and I'm gonna get all this money. But he made the fight. He made it happen. People say it was too many years too late, but every single time he made a fight, no one's beat
people
him.
bought it. Yeah, and people bought it. Yeah. So I get it. I want to see. We talked about it. Like, I want to see somebody do a double main event and all that. Like, make it like a wrestling card. Like, just have a super card
Oh,
every
oh,
every every 5 years. Every 5 years, just have a super card, like the best
every
of the
two
best from
years.
each weight class. From each weight class, just have the best number one and number two contenders go at it on one pay-per-view. It could be heavyweight, lightweight, middleweight.
Get the celebrities
You don't
there
gotta get
early.
you don't gotta get to the bantamweight and all that stuff, but
Get the
but just
celebrities in Vegas at 7, 8 o'clock in the arena with the $100,000 seats because the co-main event is Joshua Wilder and the
you know what I'm
main
saying, and then you
event
can have
is Tyson Fury versus Mike Tyson. Whatever, I don't know. Whatever you got to do, but
and then
like
you
the
can have
co-main
Adrian
event,
Broner. Then you can have Broner on the undercard. You know what I mean? Like, give me
yeah,
Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia or
and
something.
all these guys can clamor for it. But it's like, listen, man, we're about to make $1 billion.
Right.
I think
Easy.
a four. If you have
Easy.
four headliners and you just had them go by weight class, I realistically think they could split. They could probably split $600 million. I think people would. I think with people like people who are
Well, from
into
what I
the
was reading, I think Canelo made 50 just off of
50,
this fight. Yeah. Just off of this fight. So like, yeah, that's definitely possible.
but
So
you got to
yeah.
want it.
Yep. So yeah, so get it off my chest. So you know what I hate? I hate when you support somebody and you support something and they do just enough to get you to buy in. And then the moment it hits the fan, they just forget everything that they stood for. So, like, I'm all about speaking up, speaking out. If you feel something wrong is going on, you state it and you say it loudly and you say it to the people that you feel are committing the wrongs or some people who are endorsing the wrongs. So we saw this man not looking for attention because I hate attention. I don't look for attention. I just get it because people think I'm cool, I guess. But, this guy was sitting on the bench, minding his business, even rocking some pig socks. And everybody was wondering what he was doing, but he never said anything. And then he finally got asked the question, and he said, I'm standing up to police brutality, and I'm tired of seeing black and brown faces suffer these tragedies and all this. So like, who wouldn't be on board with that? You know what I mean? So like, okay, got the buy-in. Then, his homeboys left him out to dry because none of them either wanted to speak up, or they would say, "Oh, we're going to have a demonstration, or we're going to do something this weekend," and then they would like lock arms with the owner or whatever, the same owner that was treating them like shit and like, everything else. So then like, he started calling the league like a plantation and all this kind of stuff. He
Yeah,
lost
that
me with
same
the
owner
Fidel.
also was blocking black kids from integrating schools. But keep going.
Yeah, he blocked. He lost me with the Fidel Castro shirt. Like at that point, you were just doing things like just to get attention at that point and to upset people for no other reason other than to upset people. But I was like, okay, you know what I mean? Okay. So, he got blackballed. John Elway got caught lying, and nobody even brings it up anymore. He got caught lying, talking about we offered this dude a contract, and he said no because he didn't want to be a backup. That was not true. And he got away with that. So, so he went to court, collusion with his guy, Eric Reed or whatever, got paid out by the NFL. I still don't know how much he got paid.
I
But then
think it
he
was part
came
of
back
the
out.
NBA.
Yeah, he came back out a few years later, had a tryout, and the NFL tried to screw him. So this is where I'm about to piss off Mr. Logical, because his boy Jigga, came into the league and got all cool and, rubbing elbows business wise and everything like that, and allegedly got Kaepernick this tryout. But they called the man on a Tuesday and was like, yo, be here Saturday. And then you can't record nothing. We're going to provide the receivers. And I'm like, okay, if I don't trust you, who's to say you're not going to just bring some receivers out here that's going to drop my passes and make me look bad? Or whatever the case may be. Then he moved to practice somewhere else, and everybody got pissed off. Stephen A. Smith went off, and that got the whole TO beef started. All that happened. So now we fast forward 2023. It's been 7 years, dog. And he's writing letters to the New York Jetropolitans asking for a spot with Mark Davis as a reference, like with people in the 49ers organization as references, like he's actually applying for an HR job or something like that. And J. Cole made it public for whatever reason. I don't know why he made it public. But my whole thing is like, okay, you said this place was a plantation. They weren't supporting the players. They weren't backing black people up. They weren't doing enough to help the black community. And you keep begging for a handout to go back. So then The Rock, comes out and is like, yo, I got a spot for you in the XFL. And I said years ago, go to the CFL, because my idea was you just love football and you want to play the sport. You don't have to be in the NFL to play football. That ain't true. So what I hate is when someone starts out with so much potential and then they just disappoint you like everybody else.
Well, that's where like that's when you're your 2-5 realm. I'm gonna go ahead and play devil's advocate. My thing is this. My thing with Kaepernick is this: is that you publicly said, like, you called it a plantation. You referred to coaches, owners. That tryout was moved on his own. It's just that the NFL, especially recently, has been coming under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of allegations, guys having to sell their team, mismanagement of team, people getting sued, concussions. They have come over and dealt with a whirlwind of controversy. And then when it comes down to it, when that whistle blows, man, they don't need you on the field. And I think he's when he had leverage, he gave it up very early on. And I knew from then he wasn't gonna and that's the thing. I don't know who's sitting at the table. This is something I say dealing with right now I'm still working in a military organization.
Through.
But that's
I don't think he thought it through. Like he just did something.
I'm not supposed to be able to think all of my things through if I have a board of directors. If I have people in my corner, somebody should be sitting at the table. Like I reference an argument that I had.
Not the NFL. I'm talking about him.
No. Him. His table, his group of people, his board, his personal board of directors. It's like, like I said, I use this as a reference when I was dealing with like my military time, and even now, it's like who's sitting at the table telling the person at the head of the table, or someone's coming up with this idea at the table, like, yo, hold on, I don't think that's a good idea. Let's think this through. I don't think anybody was in at his table telling him, like, yo, don't opt out of this contract you have with the 49ers. Because it was a favor, it was a team friendly deal already. It was over a
Mhm.
$100 million deal. Like, so when you opt out of that in the middle of a controversy that brings this much attention, is like, I don't need you to get me 20 touchdowns and 8 picks and whatever the case may be, because I can get CJ Stroud right now is on pace to have a pretty good year. Tua's having a good year. Justin Herbert's going to get you 25 and 10. I can get a guy who's not going to have me at the podium answering questions about his off the field affiliations or off the field motivations. And all I need you to do is get me points. At the end of the day, sometimes it's simply about all I need you to do is give me points. Having a platform and using it appropriately, that's perfectly fine. But I'm
Mhm.
not sure exactly what he did for his platform. It felt like he did some commercials, and then I get that we always go to the black players and black people in general is like, oh, you got to be the savior of all the problems that we have, and I get that that's not the case. But your own actions have shown that you want a certain status in the NFL that they're simply don't have to give you. And it's like, why are you expecting that? Like, why are you expecting just to come off of the street in your mid 30s
7 years.
and be a starting quarterback? Like, entire systems have changed. The way they hire coaches have changed since like, they used to hire 40-plus-year-old coaches almost exclusively. Now, a lot of
Mhm.
coaches around 37 to 39, that's the target demographic they're trying to get. They would have bigger backs, maybe the two back system. That was a big thing. We said the two back system. Now it's just two backs available. If you have a stud first back, and other that, you can just run two or three backs out there. The whole system, the whole philosophy of the NFL has changed, and you're still trying to get in. It's like, yo, any position, anybody in any position that hadn't played for 7 years is not going to get a lot of run. So
Mhm.
if he was putting his name out there, putting these letters out there, and then when they went and talked to him, he would, mention some foundation he's supporting or show some kind of effort in these environments in these cities that he, that will rock with that. Like, if you try and donate to the Broken Windows Initiative out here in New Jersey, you follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, I'm trying to get the community together, but like, if you're not even doing that, then you're just doing it for attention at this point, and it feels reckless, and it feels
Yeah, and
deliberate,
I
and it
don't want
feels
to, and
like
I don't want to bang on him like that because I mean he did, and I haven't followed lately, but in the beginning he was putting his money where his mouth was, and
he
he
didn't
had the
put that he
foundation that
didn't put that settlement money, because after that settlement money, he disappeared.
yeah he disappeared. You know what I
Like,
mean?
I
As
mean,
far
let's
as we
keep it a
know, like
bean.
he might have still been doing things behind the scenes, but it wasn't
He
as
can
public as
attract the
it was.
camera. He can attract the camera and the camera crew every single time he has one of these frivolous tryouts, but yet he doesn't have a camera anywhere where he's tearing down boarded up buildings and out
Well,
in
that's what I'm
San
saying.
Francisco
Like
where he
he
played
didn't. I
football.
think
He
that he
does.
didn't want the attention in the first place. Like
I
you know what
think
I
he
mean?
wanted
So
the
like
attention. I think he just didn't understand the backlash. He didn't have a plan for it. And right now there is no plan for it because he got paid. He got whatever his settlement was. Eric Reed stayed in the league. A lot of these guys stay in the
right,
league. Then
right.
I think Eric Reed and Michael Jenkins had beef because Michael Jenkins like, listen, I can't do anything with just my arguments and my feelings. The NFL paid their settlement. I took that money and I put it to these foundations. He said that out loud in interviews. Colin Kaepernick still hasn't sat down and said, this is what I did with the settlement money that I got from the NFL.
Hmm.
So it's like, I get it. You worked hard and you stood on something, and you put your career on. You put your career up as a gamble, and I'm not sure if it worked. But every time somebody
Hmm.
needs a quarterback, you're not it. It's just not. It's not a logical outlook. It's not it for him to think that he
Nah,
is going to be this guy.
I
So
got you. That makes sense. But I just like I said, it just I don't know. There were a lot of people looking up to him, and it just I mean, whatever. But anyway, so Separation Saturday. Why is it Separation Saturday? Because it's time to get busy, baby. We got A&M hosting Bama. Like the lead, who's gonna take the driver's seat of the SEC West? We got Georgia and Kentucky hosting Kentucky. Can Georgia establish themselves as who they are, or can Kentucky make a case and actually put some stuff in the universe? Could somebody else win the SEC East besides Georgia? Can Louisville end Jada Pinkett's reign of abuse? The ACC playing the role of Will Smith. 30 is the number. 30 straight regular season wins Notre Dame has over the ACC, and now Louisville needs to put an end to the red table. Then, just in the 2-5's world, only 2-5 cares about it. The little brown jug, Michigan at Minnesota. The little brown jug. So that on NCAA, that was one of my favorite rivalries, back in the day.
Yeah, I used to play a guy. We would play the rivalry games, and you have to save we saved the trophy on the little hard drive that came with the PS2. You saved it. Yeah, bring that over here so people can see I got all these trophies on you.
And then of course, you got the matchup in Dallas. 2 top 12 defenses. Oklahoma, Texas, the Red River Shootout. College football is here this weekend, baby.
It's legit. Shout out to college football for figuring it out.
So
they figured out what boxing hadn't.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get us started real quick. Of course, we start off every week. Upset alert. Who's on upset alert? So I got a couple of upset alerts for you. And I'm being dead serious about this first one.
All right, I am putting the
Virginia Cavaliers on upset watch against the William and Mary Tribe. You know what I'm saying? William and Mary might just walk into Charlottesville and walk out with a victory. No tiki torches. You know what I'm saying? Then,
there's good players on both sides. There's good players on both sides.
Yeah, good players on both sides. Then my other upset alert. We got to go all the way to War Memorial Stadium. And if you're thinking about why am I thinking that this is an upset alert, you just asked Texas Tech what happened when they went to Laramie. So I got Fresno State on upset alert. I'm not that confident about that one because Fresno State has shut out Wyoming the last 2 years. But, I'm going with upset alert, But for the actual upsets, I think Louisville is going to put an end to Jada Pinkett, So Notre Dame, I think, is going down because this is the 3rd straight week, because what do I like to do, Mr. Logical? You got to look at the schedule. This is their 3rd straight game in primetime. 2 of them on the road. Obviously, they had the first week against Ohio State, 10 men on the field at home, Heartbreak City. They went into Durham last week and beat Duke. And now they got to go into what used to be known as Papa John Stadium and deal with Louisville in prime time. So, I just don't like the spot in the schedule there. I'm going with Purdue over Iowa. I don't care that, of course, Cade McNamara is out for the season, but I don't care that Iowa's backup quarterback is 6'3", 260. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, Iowa's going down. And then finally, I had to do it. All you got to do is peel it back and look at how God works. You know what I'm saying? God might just get his comeuppance this weekend. I'm going with Texas ampersand, to beat Alabama. 2 years ago, Kyle Field, they hit the field goal as time expired. Zach Calzada with the win, 41-38 last year. There you go.
Cute Instagram video, yeah.
Yeah, and then last year, of course, it came down to the very last play in Tuscaloosa from the 2-yard line. So I'm going with ampersand. to upset the elephants.
Interesting. Like I said, watching Ohio State's quarterback, I'm not a huge fan, but like I said, if you think about the last few Ohio State quarterbacks that we've seen, those guys have seemed like out of worldly. I think they have enough to beat Maryland, but with me, when it comes to college football, I tend to go with whatever team has the most dynamic quarterback or an experienced quarterback. So that's why you're Notre Dame, Louisville. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame. So I just think that quarterback is just gonna make the plays when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
The 3rd and 7s, the check down versus the
Yeah,
post
against
route. I
Duke,
just think he's just seen it. I just think he's just seen it all
against Duke, he
as
ran
far as a
for
college
17
quarterback.
yards on four. Yeah, he ran for 17 yards on 4th and 16.
I
So
just
there
think
is
he just
proof
has
that he
that
does
that
this.
moxie. He's had that moxie since high school. Like I said, we've seen it on the Netflix
Hold up,
shows that have
time
been
out. Before we
documented.
even go any further, what the fuck is moxie? You know what I'm saying? Like
It's
everybody
like
says that. I love his moxie. What does that even mean?
I don't know if it was a word before Varsity Blues with James Vanderbeek's character Johnny Moxon. I don't know if it was a word before that. I can't front. I don't know the etymology of the word. I think it just sounds Gucci. I like it. I like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
vernacular. I like to interject it into my day-to-day commentary. Um, like I said, I have no idea. It could come from Moxon, or it could just be like a real word that came from somewhere else. But just like
Yeah.
that swat of that swag, the it factor, that phrase they use, and we'll talk about that with some of the young NFL quarterbacks. I think
Mhm.
sometimes that's what you need. You just need you can have your level of talent, and you just need the playmaker in the key position that just makes it go. Miles Garrett, defensive line, Von Miller in defensive line, Aaron Donald defensive line. They just, especially in college, they had it. Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans having that relationship where they
Mhm.
can just make it happen. I just think having that player, because we've all seen it when you have a kid that should be the starter and the upperclassman starts and the ball's not going anywhere, it's not moving, and then you just insert the quarterback and you can open up your scheme a little bit, but you don't change any other 10 players, and now you get back-to-back touchdown drives.
Mhm.
It's like, how did that
So
happen? So I think that's
Ohio
that's
State. So Ohio State is 8-0 against Maryland, coming off of a bye. Since Ryan Day has been the head coach, they've outscored their opponents 178-17.
I don't like
You
grooming
know,
the Dade beard, so I want to pick against it just because of that.
well, last
I'm running
year,
around here, you 5, 6 years older than me, all your hair black. Stop it. It ain't.
last year, little Tua went off, and they took Ohio State to the wire. Ohio State won 43-30. There was a fumble with about 10 seconds left on the last play of the
Yeah.
game that Ohio State ran in. But we saw even when Urban Meyer was the coach, Maryland went into the horseshoe one time, and it was a 52-51 overtime game. So Maryland has, played well against the big boys in the Big Ten. They just don't always pull it off. So I don't think they're going to get Ohio State. But just put this in your mental Rolodex for now. Watch for Maryland against Michigan, just because Maryland plays Michigan in between Penn State and Ohio State. So just keep that in your Rolodex for now.
All right.
You know,
Like you keep picking Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, and I don't know if I'm taking Alabama because I picked against them, and I said I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna take LSU because
this
I
game.
think Dayton Daniels is having a Heisman season, except they have two losses. It
That
looks like
game's going to
him
be
and
tougher
Brian
than
Kelly
people
figured it
think,
out.
though.
I
It's going to
don't
be
know how
bigger.
much eligibility he has or what kind of NFL prospect he is, because it seems like that goalpost for NFL prospect moves every year for quarterback. Is like, oh, you got to be this tall, but then you get a guy like, I think Caleb Williams might be listed at 6 foot 6'1". Doesn't seem to be that much bigger than
He does
5'11.
look bigger than Bryce Young, though.
He didn't
Like, he
look too
doesn't look
much
the
bigger than
same
Spencer
size as,
Rattler, and
like,
Spencer Rattler's listed at 6'1".
yeah.
So, like I said, Jaden Daniels, maybe he's just one of those guys that can just make plays at the college level. But it seems like him and Brian Kelly are on the same page. It's just unfortunately they have the 2 losses. But he's having a Heisman quality season. Mizzou's looking good. They had the win with the long field goal over Kansas State. And
Yeah. And they
sometimes
got
teams like
Luther Burton.
some
I don't know what
teams
LSU
like
gonna
that
do about him.
just kind of come out of nowhere, and they have that year where they're mediocre for a couple of years. They get the recruits in, they get the 3 stars, they get the transfer in, they get the good player from the other school, and then they get the coach and it all lines up, and they have their top notch 10-2 year. This might be Missouri's year, but I'm taking LSU just because I can't see them losing 3 games with a quarterback that's that dynamic. Like I said, I'll pick the playmaking quarterback at the college football level because I think that is such a trump card in most of defensive schemes. I like Texas. I was born there. I went to Oklahoma a couple times. I'm a big fan, so I'm gonna pick Texas in the Red River Shootout. And I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
think
picking
Brent
Texas
Venables.
as well.
I'm not a big fan of like defensive coordinators being head coaches at college football because it seems a little bit more like the Wild Wild West shootout. Some games, yes, you need defensive.
Hey, but those are the successful coaches. Look at Nick Saban and Kirby Smart.
Yeah, they both learned to hire super masterful offensive minded
I know, but they
coordinators,
made.
but I
But
don't
when
know
you
if
think of
every
Georgia, but when you think
coordinator
of
has that
Georgia,
kind of cachet that becomes a defense. Just think about it.
so when you think of Georgia, you think offense first? Because I don't.
Well, yeah, their defense. I mean, granted, they're all playing in Philly, like right up the block from here.
Well, I mean, even Bama, like before
Georgia just made a run. They just made a run on getting like top notch defensive players, but they still needed 42 points against Ohio State with Stetson Bennett scoring all these touchdowns. So it's like you still got to
but
score.
even look at Bama, like we remember Mac Jones, Bryce Young, but they won some titles with AJ McCarron and Jacob
Yeah, but
Coker.
AJ McCarron was like in the height. He had enough in his stat category to be in a Heisman race. But he
No, he
also
played for
had
Bama,
John
and people
David.
put him there.
What's the guy name? The one that did commentary for Greg McElroy.
They won a title with Blake Sims.
They had, Greg McElroy, and they had what's the guy that lost against Utah?
McElroy. That's who I was thinking about when I said McCarron. I was thinking about McCarron. Yeah, John Parker Wilson.
Yeah, they lost to Utah in the big bowl game, and they had lost a couple of games that year too. But when you get the top-notch defense, and then you give the offense to Lane Kiffin, you give the offense to Bill O'Brien, you give the offense to Steve Sarkisian, offensive mind. Yeah, you look like you have a great defense because you got your offense scoring in 37 seconds, and you're up 21-0 halfway through the second quarter. Yeah, I'm going to look great because all I'm going to do is call cover 2, and I'm going to just send the house. I'm going to send my 4 down linemen, and you got to throw it because you're down 21. You're going to throw it right to Pat Surtain. You're going to throw it right to Landon College. You're going to throw it right to, what's the guy, Branch, that's in Detroit right now.
Yeah, Brian Branch. Yeah. You
So
got Kool-Aid.
the linebackers underneath, they're gonna feast because we're up 21-0. We're up, 21-3 pretty much every second quarter, every single week because he got a top quarterback in who can make the plays and they stack the defense on the other side. You see what their struggles are. Their quarterback was older. That's why he was able to. He's older than Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. So
he is.
So like that's what I mean there. But I think Jimbo Fisher, I don't know what his relationship is with Nick Saban. I know it's probably not great, but that tends to make people do things out of character. Eric Mangini snitching on Bill Belichick kind of stuff. Like just not thinking about, okay, what's gonna happen inside these painted lines that I can control with these 83 guys. Ooh, okay, looking good.
Yes, a touchdown. Yeah, we got a game. Got to go for 2 here. 30-20. Washington just scored. Sam Howell to Jahan Dotson. So going for the 2-point conversion here. 10:51 left in the fourth quarter. 30-20. So, we'll take you through this real quick.
22 is getting worked all
Okay, here we
game
go.
long.
Here's the Howell going up the middle, and he throws it up, and it's intercepted. And okay, so 30-20, 10:51 left to go. So yeah, I agree. I got Texas
Mike
as well.
is a few seconds ahead of me. He just gave the entire play away. So now
I got
the audience
people ain't got time to wait for you.
Watching, the people who are watching, now you can see what Mike just kind of laid out.
But yeah, I'm going with Texas as well. I think I do like Dylan Gabriel. He missed last year. Texas won 49-0.
Excuse me.
I don't think Dylan Gabriel was worth 49 points, but both have top 12 defenses. Oklahoma's in that weird zone where you try to look through their schedule and see where the good win is, and you can't find it. But they've been dominating.
Texas is gonna win.
Yeah, but they've been dominating everybody though. So so you do know that they're good. A&M has the number one defense in the SEC right now. They're number 3 in the country on third down defense. And Alabama's got a quarterback that can't necessarily throw the ball. He only threw 12 passes against Mississippi State last week, and they were able to win 40-17. But congratulations, Mississippi State, because they threw their first touchdown against Alabama since Dak Prescott in 2014. So congratulations, Mississippi State.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, so but
that's dominance. That's pure dominance right there.
Yeah, Evan Stewart.
9 years.
Remember Evan Stewart? He was the guy that the Alabama player said that Jimbo called his name on the last play last year. He's got a bit of an ankle going on, so that could be an issue, in this game. So we'll have to check him out and see how he does. But Jace McClellan has been impressive for Alabama running the ball. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Just like last year. Last year ended 24-20. It might be a little less scoring than that.
24-14, somewhere in that range.
The same type of game.
I don't think Alabama's offense is going to catch fire, but I think the defense, the framework of the defense, big linebackers.
Yeah, Dallas Turner's going to have a good game.
Secondary, big up front. I think that gets you a touchdown. Either a cheap touchdown where you get a turnover, deep in your own territory, or you just flat out get a scoop and score, pick six, something along those lines.
Yeah, and Max Johnson does have a tendency to fumble, when he gets hit, so that could be a factor, where Alabama gets some short fields and are able to punch it in from there.
When you have a quarterback that you don't trust to throw the ball a lot, and you get one or two possessions inside of your 30, going inside of 30. We were talking about earlier when I was talking about Joe Flacco on the Ravens. Joe was getting the ball at the 50-yard line a few times a game, either through turnovers or a punt return, some kind of special teams play, because the Ravens is kind of always putting the team in a position like, listen, the defense is going to carry us, offense, you just make it happen. We're going to buy the groceries, you carry them into the house. Yeah. So a team like Alabama playing against A&M, the emotion is going to be high, road game. I just think that fumble, that just second quarter, third quarter, when the momentum is, in balance, you get the ball back to your quarterback. He's not sure about throwing it. Then you just get him on the edge. Just run it. Get him on the edge, and then see what you can make happen from there.
So you remember last week, Utah went up to Corvallis, and Oregon State was favored, even though Utah was the higher ranked team. So this week, we got Wazoo going to UCLA, going to the Rose Bowl with UCLA as a 3.5-point favorite. So can UCLA do what Oregon State did?
What I saw out of UCLA against Utah, granted, it was at elevation, and Utah's defensive line is probably rivals some NFL practice squad defensive lines as far as like size and skill, because they go big. And like I said, those guys are generally older, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. I just think the ranked team. I want to give them the upper hand, and I don't. Especially considering that the Rose Bowl, it's not like the Rose Bowl is like this imposing stadium that you
Right,
can't play
right.
in. It's literally a bowl. Like imagine you had a cereal bowl. It's like completely open. There's no overhang. There's nothing that's intimidating about the
Mm-hmm.
stadium in and of itself. It just looks like a really big amphitheater just circled around a football field. So it's not like the swamp or an Ann Arbor or out in Penn State or even a shoe or LSU, one of these places, Clemson. It's not one of those kind of buildings that just when you walk in, you feel the history of the upsets and everything else. So I don't think the
You know what
Washington
I'm
State
saying?
players are going to walk in and just be like, oh, we haven't won here since 1998. It's none of it's
Yeah,
nothing like
back in
that.
'04, back in '04 when I walked into the old Orange Bowl to watch Florida and Florida State, I smelled all the blood and the piss, you know what I'm saying? So I knew it was gangster in there. Like
Yeah,
you
you
just
you
know.
just feel like a certain it's like a certain even Rice Echo Stadium, Salt Lake. It's not it's not like it's inviting, but it's kind of like boxes you in. It's like it's built big and it has like the the right side, so the west side of the stadium is built like this big, like the buildings are attached to that, and then you look to the east, you got the mountains. So it's and then you have the elevation, and then the fans are all in red, and it's like 45,000 people, but the stadium's kind of like folded over. So when you look up, it
Mhm.
feels like the fans are on top of you. The seats are all painted red. That's the only thing they use the stadium for is, I mean, they might use it for maybe for like some of the college soccer stuff, but for it's just a football field, and it's just intimidating because everywhere you look, it's a sea of red and it's loud. People are jumping, going crazy. UCLA doesn't give that same kind of eerie, like, oh my
No.
God, we're at the Rose Bowl. Because most people think about the Rose Bowl, they think about just the bowl game at the end of the year with just two random teams, not UCLA playing there.
Well, maybe we'll get some fireworks because the last time they played back in 2019, UCLA 67, Wazoo 63. So,
All right.
maybe we'll get something like that this time.
And
But
me could be exciting, but I'm gonna take Washington State.
all right, you ready for your pop quiz of the week?
Let's hear it.
All right. So I
I
mentioned the
won't
little
get this
brown
wrong.
jug. So I mentioned the little brown jug. Michigan going into Minnesota. Michigan leads the nation in defensive points per game. How many points they give up per game?
This
How
year,
many points per Yeah, how many points per game do they give up?
11.
5.8.
I was thinking 5. I was thinking 5.3,
Yeah.
like it can't be that low.
Yeah, so so we'll see what Minnesota can do, not known for their offense.
I
But
want
I
to talk
think
about the fact that no one talked about their head coach being suspended for 3 games. It literally was never a topic. We didn't
because it
talk
was
about it.
stupid.
I didn't see it on the news. It's like, and
It
they
was
went 3 and
stupid.
0. You were like, I wasn't even worried about it. I'm like, you're not worried. Yeah, I think we talked about it. Like, they're gonna play
Yeah,
Z.
they played East Carolina, Bowling Green, and UNLV.
Yeah, he was like, they're gonna be 3
You
and 0
know,
when he gets back.
and then when
It
they
just was
got back
eerie
off of the
that
bye,
it wasn't.
and then when
They
he
played
came back, they
Rutgers.
played Rutgers. Yeah, so speaking of Rutgers, big game in Camp Randall this weekend. I think they got a shot to pull off the upset. I don't think they're going to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give Wisconsin some headaches this weekend.
They're the Rutgers quarterback is I think he's physically dynamic, athletically dynamic, but just the experience doesn't match his athleticism. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't. It's like sometimes if you can get a guy like we'll talk about Jaden Daniels, like his athleticism, the way he can move, but the way he can control the game while moving is something that uh, they you don't have everywhere. And I think Rutgers is in that position where they don't have that dynamic, and that's what you need. You need that player on the road to make your upset. Shador Sanders against TCU, he played
Mm-hmm.
special, 510 yards that game, You don't win that game with like a regular quarterback and a good scheme. You need a guy. You need a guy
Mhm.
that plays special to win some of these
I
games.
I expect Colorado to win big this weekend. They're going up to Tempe to take on the Sun Devils. So this is the kind of game that Colorado can use to get right, before they
It's
get
gonna be
into
one of those
their
reckless games where they get like 2 picks, a couple of turnovers, some long
yeah.
touchdowns. Yeah, I think it's
And
gonna be one of
then
those games where people are gonna be doing the Dion on the sideline, stuff like that.
so, so I don't know how many people make bets off of history. So like for example, tomorrow night, we got Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and Oklahoma State has won 7 out of the last 8 times that Kansas State has come up there. So I don't know if somebody looks at that and they go, well, you got to bet Oklahoma State to cover because Kansas State can't, I don't know if that's a thing, but here's a note. USC, the Trojans, hosting the Arizona Wildcats this weekend. The last 3 times they've played Arizona, they've won by 6.5 points. So, just keep that in your nugget in case you're one of those people that like to go, hey,
Caleb Williams is
maybe
playing about 3 quarters a game, and he is still leading in most passing categories or at the top. And if you broke it down per quarter he played, minutes played, he's head and shoulders. He's different. I get
yeah,
that he doesn't want to go to one of these. He's gonna go to a bad team no matter what. Like it, he's gonna go to a bad team if he declares for the draft this year, goes back next year. You're gonna go to a if it's not Chicago this year. Arizona looks
go
like they're gonna
replace Russell
stumble.
Wilson.
I think Arizona is gonna stumble into 2 or 3 wins, maybe if
Hey,
not
he
more,
might
just off of effort.
he might get to back up Aaron Rodgers for a year.
Nah, that's not gonna be a move.
No, Jets gonna win some games.
I think the Jets will win a couple of games they shouldn't, like the game they won with the punt
Buffalo.
return. Yeah, like
Oh
they're
yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna be
yeah, yeah.
Buffalo again.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say the team that probably ends up with the first pick. I mean, at this point, so many teams are so bad. I mean, Cincinnati has to turn it around. As we're going to transition here to NFL, but Cincinnati has to turn it around. I think Atlanta's going to stumble into some victory. So, I mean, he might, if he's in a situation where the bottom falls out for a really good team that doesn't have a quarterback or is looking to get
Yeah.
rid of their quarterback. New England, they bottom out, which
Minnesota.
I don't know if Minnesota's going to bottom out though. Not,
I
not
don't know if they'll
if
bottom
Kurt's
out.
if
Well,
Kurt's healthy, I think he'll win you games. I think you're gonna
see,
like I said, you're gonna backdoor your way in the
look at that segue. Look at that segue. So when they lose to Kansas City this week and they're 1-4, you know what I mean? Now we might have something to talk about.
I mean, I think they're gonna do something like beat Kansas City and be 2-3 and put themselves in a position to where a team like the Giants just paid their quarterback. Tennessee cannot be in the market for another quarterback come April. It if that's the case, you got to clear house. You got to
Right.
start over. You got to
Right.
move. Like you might have to move your team to
Hey, but right
Kentucky.
now, everybody in the AFC South is 2-2. So, so the whole
So
season is
some yeah
ahead of them.
yeah. So and someone like but most of those teams, Jacksonville has their QB, Houston has theirs, Indianapolis has theirs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tennessee should have theirs on the roster. They got 3 of them, 2 drafted in the last 2 years, using second and third round picks on them. I just like I said for I think Carolina's going to be awful because I think any ding if Bryce Young has a shoulder, he's going to sit the following week. So if he goes in this game this week against Detroit, takes a sack, and they got to take him out and put Andy Dalton in, I think Andy Dalton will play the rest of this week or the rest of that game and the following week precautionary. Andy Dalton's prime time record is terrible, but just in general, he's been such a journeyman that he's been kind of relegated to this backup quarterback role that comes in with no expectations, no real game plan for him to succeed. Like no one's designing a game plan for whatever Andy Dalton does best. I think it's like,
What
hey
about the
man,
Raiders?
the Raiders just paid Jimmy. Like there's not an extension. Like I think he's on their
Mm-hmm.
books. Uh but once again, do they stumble to some wins just because they're just a tough team? Are they like the New England, like the like New England, Belichick, Josh McDaniels?
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna earn some wins. The only team I can think of that really will lose a lot of games strictly because they don't have the talent to win games. I mean, if Pickett doesn't straighten up and fly right, Pittsburgh can have a free fall. I think Atlanta's gonna be one of those teams that's gonna be looking hard at a quarterback. Um, the Jets,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to. I don't know how bad the Jets are gonna be. I don't know if Zach. I think Zach Wilson's desire to win will resonate with the other team.
I mean, yeah, he showed some flash last week, you know what I mean? And this week they should be motivated. Nathaniel Hackett, I made the joke off camera about, what's he going to have drawn up for the Broncos this week after Sean Payton tried to drag his name through the mud. But we'll come to that. Let's get into these picks. So we got Jacksonville. I'm putting Buffalo on upset alert. I'm picking Buffalo to win. But, Jacksonville has the advantage of staying in England the past week. And Buffalo's going to have to fly over or has flown over and has to do the adjustments and all that good stuff like that. So Jacksonville
But that
may
might
have
be
some
tough for
bodies,
Jacksonville because that's a whole. You gotta keep in mind, it's a lot of players, coaches.
but I would
A lot
think
of
that
stuff not
Buffalo
the
might get off
same.
to a slower start though. That's my like Jacksonville might come out a little bit more
They
hair
weren't
on
really
fire
hitting on
early.
all cylinders last week. I think the final
No, they
score ended
weren't.
up being 23-7. 7 of those points came off a pick six, or 6 came off a pick six,
Right.
and
Right.
then
Yeah, so I'm
Ritter threw
picking Buffalo
another
to win.
interception.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville. I think the loss to Houston was very telling because even and the win, the post game interview, Trevor Lawrence, he was like, we didn't not like we came out here and really lit up the scoreboard. So I think there is a disconnect in player because their player personnel packages are ridiculous. They are
Mm-hmm.
a 27 plus point per game offense. When you think
Mm-hmm.
about ATN, Ingram, Zay Jones,
Kurt
Christian Kirk, Calvin
Ridley.
Ridley, getting the ball thrown to him by Trevor Lawrence. That's
Mm-hmm.
6 weapons, real
Right.
tangible weapons that Chicago's about to Chicago again. What are we looking at? Oh, it's fourth
Nah,
quarter.
they
They got
ain't. They ain't. No, they'll probably still hold on unless this is a touchdown pass right here. And nope.
time.
But
So yeah, so I'm taking Buffalo. I think the way Buffalo dominated Miami a week after Miami dropped 70, it just I think this is the
well,
spot Buffalo needs to be in. Coming into the last couple of seasons, everyone had them as Super Bowl favorites. And then you had I won't say the blow up. I think it's just your natural. We're out of the season's over. You're the starting
mhm,
quarterback. I'm the number one wide receiver. We didn't make magic happen when we had an opportunity. I think people made a bigger deal of the Stephon Diggs, and then Sean McDermott didn't really help. But
right.
I think that kind of brought them down a notch. I think Kansas City winning the Super Bowl without like the stud wide receivers, and then Miami having them. So I think it's just, and then the Cincinnati buzz. People want
Yeah, they're just
Joe
lost in
Burrow,
the
the next
shuffle right
guy.
now.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
they're lost in the shuffle, and they're like, okay, all we do is win, win, win. I mean, T Pain, DJ Khaled style. So
Right.
I think that's going to help them, and then they're going to get Von Miller back. They're going to get guys like Poirier, like their secondary.
Well, they lost Trey White for the season now.
But the thing
So
about corner is that if you can rush the passer up front, you
Right,
you
right,
have a guy you can shift in there. Like, granted, you
right.
won't have a Stephon Gilmore, you won't have a Jalen Ramsey, but you'll have a guy you can move. You have a scheme. You have a
Well, they
you
got
can
my
draw
guy
up a
Kyer
scheme
Elam
for
from
that.
Florida, so he's in there.
So at a minimum, like you have that. That's just I guarantee he hits hard and he's a speed guy because he's with the
Well,
Florida
these
from
last
Florida.
3 games, Buffalo has averaged 10.3 points in the first quarter. So the key is going to be keeping Buffalo from getting off to a hot start because Jacksonville can probably go blow for blow as far as a regularly paced game. But if Buffalo gets out early, I don't know if Jacksonville can keep
I'm not
up.
sure Doug Peterson is if he runs the ball to control the clock kind of coach. I think he's more of
Well,
a
they're only averaging 3.6 a carry right now. So, that probably won't work anyway.
so yeah, it's gonna be tough. So Buffalo in the win up there. I don't know if they're playing in Tottenham or
Yeah.
Old Trafford or one of
Yeah,
those
they're
stadiums.
playing. Yeah, they're playing at Tottenham. Yeah.
I
Um,
I find it amazing that they can sell out those stadiums, but it's probably a lot of military people because it's
yeah.
multiple bases in that general area. Because there's always a bunch of random jerseys, like Viking jerseys and Green Bay jerseys. So it must be
It's like
something that,
Korea.
yeah. So
But
they just
yeah, then
fill the stadium.
of course I got the Dolphins bouncing back and taking out the football giants.
I I never seen a $40 million check upset so many people than what. Because I have a couple of cousins that are Giants fan. She put on Facebook the other day. She was like, "Dear NFL, please don't put us on TV anymore and spare some of us our pain." 11 sacks, and I'm like, I looked at it, and they were all on Daniel Jones. It wasn't like they put Tyrod Taylor in late, so it was like you didn't adjust at all. You have your starting quarterback in there getting sacked that many times. That's on you. That's what happens when you win Coach of
Well,
the Year and you didn't deserve it.
do you know Daniel Jones is amount that he makes per year is higher than his QBR right now.
I had, like I
So
said,
he's
last year I
and of
felt like he
course
played like
Washington
a top.
misses the field goal.
I felt like he was a top 10. He was playing like a top 10 quarterback. Not that I thought he was top 10 talent.
Right,
I
right,
just
right,
thought
right,
that
right.
he was playing. If you had the if it was a race, he was 8, 9, 10, 11. He was in that range coming around the 300 meters coming down the home stretch.
His QBR is 37 and he has 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So, hopefully, for their sake, Saquon will be able to play. I know he's been practicing a little bit, still limited and everything. So, you know,
They should have gave him real money.
I should have gave him real money, But
They should have
then,
given him real
we
money.
go up to Foxborough. Can the Saints pull the upset?
I'm picking New England. Uh, I'm not sure who's starting Carr or Winston. I'm not sure the extent of the injury, but I would still pick New England because I think they're one of those teams that they're just so well coached. They're going to make the defensive plays. They're going to be solid up front, and they're probably going to win this game 21-13,
Yeah.
21-10, or like 20. I'm going to say a couple of touchdowns, couple of field goals. So 20 to
Yeah.
10, 20 to 13, New England's going to win. They're going to get 6 or 7 sacks, maybe
Yeah.
1 or 2
I'm,
turnovers.
I'm picking the Patriots just because the Saints offense wasn't good even when Derek Carr was healthy. So,
And I like
so I
Jameis. I
can't,
think Jameis is a
you know,
dope person. I think he's a nutcase, but
you know,
I never had a lot of faith in New Orleans. That's a W. That's a W. I mean, I think he's like crazy hilarious, but I don't know if that resonates with the guys on the field. So what you got next? So
so
far
then we
I
got
guess we're in agreement.
yeah, I think we're going to agree on this next one too. Ravens and Steelers.
I'm gonna go Baltimore. I don't like
Yeah, I'm
picking
going
against Mike
Baltimore.
Tomlin just because
Well,
he's from my city, and I think he does such an outstanding job coaching. I just think that Kenny Pickett is the white Desmond Ritter, and I think
And he's got a bum knee too.
I think you, I think we've seen his ceiling, and it's very low. Nothing
Okay.
about the way he plays says, "Oh, he's gonna get better in a year." When I see Justin Herbert, when he started out, like, "Oh, this guy has the potential to get better." Um, you look at Brock Purdy. It looks like he's going to continue because I know there's a couple of pundits, mainly Nick Wright on First Things First. He's waiting for the chariot to turn into a pumpkin on Brock Purdy. And it's like your your argument doesn't make any sense because he's still winning. Like he still has an opportunity to make a bad play, even if he only throws 14 passes a game. You could throw one or two of those in the wrong spot, and you're 12 for 14 with two interceptions. So it's not like he's throwing
Sounds like me
to,
on Madden.
it just so I think Kenny Pickett is one of those guys we've seen his ceiling is very low.
Well, yeah, he's got the bone bruise in his knee. What I don't like for Baltimore, though, I just don't like the spot because I looked at the schedule. I just don't like the spot. Because of course Jesus, and that would be the game, folks. But Cleveland playing on the road at Cleveland last week, and then turning around and going to Pittsburgh in back-to-back
But
weeks.
the game in Cleveland was
I
pretty
just
easy.
No, I know that, but I just
It has
mean
to be
like the
like it has to
intensity
be tough.
level, like you know, um, but I got Baltimore as well. I got Detroit over Carolina. You know, um, we probably ain't gotta, get much into that one. I got
Jared Goff is a guy that when you saw him throw the football, you're like, okay, he's gonna get better. He
mhm,
just looks like some of these guys just don't look like they are in the appropriate position.
37-20, folks. DJ Moore does it again. All right, so I got your Falcons getting back into the W column. I got them beating the Texans.
Where that makes one of us. I got
Right,
Houston. I got Houston beating Atlanta simply because I've watched 4 games
right.
this season. I watched 4 games that Desmond Ritter started last season.
So 15-2 is over.
Oh yeah, 15-2 is over. I'm jumping off that. I just I'm nothing without my integrity. I thought that the offense, I thought Mariota was just limited and Arthur Smith was conservative. But now what
I
I'm
think it was
realizing,
both.
yes, but now what I'm realizing is that Arthur Smith has no desire to not be conservative. So
He has no desire to play winning
I
football.
don't know what Ritter can do, and I don't think he's put Ritter in enough positions to see. We'll talk about this game that just occurred. The first play, 0-4, we blew a 14-point or 21-point lead last week. Chicago Bears haven't won a game since last year. Like this is all coaches gonna get fired. Uh Quarterback that didn't want to play here got a wide receiver on the bench. Their first drive, they threw 2 bombs to DJ Moore when he just man-to-man coverage. I don't know what the original play was. I don't know if that was the play call, but I think when they saw it, it was like, oh, I'm gonna take these shots up the sideline with DJ Moore, my playmaking wide receiver and my young quarterback.
Hmm.
A lot of Atlanta's routes, I was thinking about this. Atlanta runs routes to get first downs, not to make big plays. So they run a bunch of curls, bunch of like little drag routes, a bunch of in kind of routes, a bunch of out routes to the sideline to get 3rd and 6 to get 6 yards. Versus let me get the ball in the hands of this playmaker. Scotty Miller is probably one of the fastest guys in the NFL. Let me get this guy coming across, like bunch him up on the left, see if the team goes man coverage. and see if I can get this speedster
Do the
across
Wes Welker.
to get the ball and turn upfield. All of their routes are just like get to the sticks and turn around, get to the sticks and turn around. They're basically defensive run plays designed like pass plays. And that's why when you're down, fortunately they came back against Green Bay and they were down 12. But I have zero faith that if this team gets down 10 points, that their offensive scheme is gonna pressure the other team's defense. And I think Houston's gonna throw the ball. Atlanta's defense is dope. They're playing great football. But it's irrelevant if Kyle Pitts, Drake London aren't getting the ball in positions to be playmakers. They're just throwing these terrible comeback routes, these in cut routes where they're just running the defense. It's like, boom, I got the catch. It's 3rd and 7. I got the catch for 8 yards. But the
Mm-hmm.
next time you running this guy into traffic, because like you're not always guaranteed to catch that ball in traffic. So I just think the lack of vision offensively from uh, Arthur Smith, the lack of vision as far as creating a winning culture from Arthur Blank, and then subsequently Desmond Ritter just being there as a younger version of a limited Mariota is like it's yeah. I'm probably gonna pick a lot of
Yeah.
games where Atlanta won't win.
All right. So then we got a game where, now granted, this is only week 5, but the road team in this game has not won on the road this season. The home team has not won at home this season.
Tie game.
So give me the road team. I'm taking the Titans over the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts. I think they're playing young. I think they're playing fast. I think they're playing excited. And I think Tennessee is just I think Tennessee's just out there just hoping that they all have jobs come mid to late October. I don't
Well, I
know. I
think
don't know what their
Tennessee.
playoff aspirations are. I'm not sure if I think it's the same thing that I feel about a team like Pittsburgh. I think they have good pieces and they can play solid, but I think you're just by
Well,
you're limited by your quarterback and you're limited by your coach. Mainly, it's
I
closer to
think
like
that's
the
it.
Atlanta
I think,
relationship. You're just
yeah, I
limited.
think
You're
it's
just
like
limited
that.
because the
Yeah,
relationship is terrible. And the
yeah, and I
organization's
think,
drafted 2 quarterbacks in the last 2 years. It's like Ryan Tannehill can't come to work. Like I get to work. I work 9 to 3. It's dope. I like it. Everyone calls me old school because I'm one of those people in my office. I like being there. I feel wanted when I show up. People say thank you when I help them out. I don't know if Tannehill drives to the building and turns off his Tupac and gets out and just ready to come to work. I don't get that feeling. I think he's probably thinking like, listen, I can end up in New Orleans rather quickly, or I can
well,
end up where
luckily for him, he has Derrick Henry. And lucky for Derrick Henry, he has Tajay Spears. So I think this is one of the classic don't make the mistake, make the rookie beat you games. And I think that the Colts fall just short.
yeah, sometimes a rookie can just he doesn't know any better. When you
It's
have
true.
talent and upside, sometimes you just like CJ Stroud last week. Talk about his numbers. He went 16 for 30. Those aren't
Mm-hmm.
great numbers. He just was like, I'm gonna go win this game. Like I'm just that's what I'm gonna go out here and just play winning football, make these plays. Like I said, we talked about it in the college football conversation. If the field goal kicker kicks a mediocre field goal through the uprights, they win the national championship because they're gonna beat the brakes off of TCU. So I think guy like Anthony Rich, I think he just this is opportunity. I think Indianapolis is kind of wrapped their arms around him. People like him. He's very likable, very personable. I think teams and players, teammates, I think the fans already like him. Whereas Tannehill can get tripped up by the guard, fumble the ball, and they'll yank him for a guy that
Mm-hmm.
Vrabel doesn't like. So I'm taking
Yep. So
Indianapolis.
I'm taking Cincinnati over Arizona.
I'm taking Arizona over Cincinnati.
There you go. There you go. We'll
I
have
think
to see how
Arizona's playing.
Burrow can move around.
I think Arizona's playing tougher defense. I think Jamar Chase is. I think sometimes you're going to have, I won't say too much talent, but at the wide receiver position, if you have two of those guys, T. Higgins could be a one on a lot of teams. About eight to 10, about 8 teams at least. He could be a one. He could be a one in Kansas City for sure. He could be a one in
Tennessee.
Tennessee. He could be a one in Baltimore.
Maybe Indy.
I think he could be a one in New Orleans. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you slide Olave, Mike Thomas. I know they got Mike Thomas. He definitely could be a one in Carolina. I could see him definitely as a one in Atlanta. So when you have Jamar Chase with definitive, I'm a number one wide receiver talent for all 32 teams, and you have another guy who's 8 to 12 teams, and you have a quarterback that can't get him the ball. Yeah, keep in mind Zach Taylor wasn't doing a great job until Joe Burrow started really feeling it. He was not a good coach. He was probably going to get fired. He just, has this situation where he has Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow fall in his lap 2 years in a row after Joe Burrow got injured, and he just went on a hot streak. But I don't see anything impressive about him. The way with McVay and Mike LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan, all those other guys from that same coaching tree, you could definitely say he is not as credible or as remarkable as other guys, and those guys are top notch. He's from the same coaching tree. I think he just was one of those guys that just ended up with two top players that played in college together, which doesn't happen.
So, speaking of McVay, give me the Rams over the Eagles.
Damn, son, I got the same thing.
Come on, man.
I got LA at home. I got Philly, who barely beat the Commanders, who I'm watching get manhandled.
Who just gave up 40 points to the Chicago Bears.
Chicago hasn't won a game since Trump was president. It hadn't been that long. But they haven't won a game
last year. This is their first time not giving up 25 points in their last 15 games.
Quarterback is 5-23 in his career.
So
I like Philly. I think Philly
here.
I think Philly, and I'm gonna mention the same thing with Kansas City. I think Philly might be. I don't want to use the word bored because I think those guys, I think they get up for these games.
I don't think it's that. I just think well, I don't think it's that. I think they just got two new coordinators.
They're running the same kind of plays. I just don't.
No, I know, but
the same way.
It took them it took their offense a few games to look like they were in sync. Their defense, outside of like getting pressure, but I don't think the defense just gave up 31 to Washington.
That's what I'm saying. That's. I just don't think. I don't think they get up for. I don't think that they. I don't think they respect their opponents enough to beat them. I think they walk into every game like no matter what we do, we can beat them versus a team like Miami is like, yo, we got to execute and put these different packages together, these plays together so we can win. The way like Chicago probably, like I said, I talk about this all the time. NFL teams, if you line them up height, weight, per position group, speed, experience, it's probably about the same. The difference is, where is your dynamic playmaker? If you have one, do you have multiple dynamic playmakers? And does that dynamic playmaker impact your scheme as a coach? So if you are a team that likes to sling it deep, you had Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek's going deep. Mahomes can throw the ball a country mile, but he's very accurate enough to throw it to Kelsey in the middle. And he's unselfish enough to throw the check down. So like that matches what Andy Reid wants to do. I think what Stafford is doing in LA matches what McVay wants to do. And I think Philly is just kind of like, we can beat anybody. we want to get to Vegas in February for the rematch with
Okay.
Kansas City.
All right. Well, I'm taking Kansas City over Minnesota. I just think that Minnesota doesn't run the ball well enough to keep Kansas City off the field. I think that Minnesota is their defense, the problems they had last year, they still have. It took a
Brian
fumble return.
Flores. Yeah, Brian Flores. I thought he was going to turn that around.
Well, I mean, it's still early. It's only 4 games so far.
But you said like it looks exactly the same as it did last year. That means it ain't
Well, I
turning
mean,
around.
but see, you doing the thing that I always talk about. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't change overnight. Like, it's not going to go
Bro, they've
from.
been practicing since March. It's
I
October.
know,
It's
but
7 months.
they
It's
sorry.
7 months. Listen, if
They're sorry, and it's a new system.
if I told you, hey, you're gonna start this class in March, in October, I need you to be able to get an 80 on it, and we do a preview, and you still getting 70s on it, like dog. I gave this material 7 months ago. We've been working at this for
You
7
can't make
months.
these dudes faster or stronger. You know what I
It's
mean?
not
Like you
about
can
it, but
scheme
that's
all
the
you
thing.
you can scheme
His
all you
scheme
want.
isn't about making them faster, strong. His scheme is about operating the scheme. If they don't have it by now, it's okay. It's not. I know it's like people don't want to call it early, like the quote unquote call it baby ugly. Sometimes you just know. You knew Andrew Luck was going to be a good NFL quarterback by the way he carried himself in his interviews, academically, and the way he played. You knew Ryan Leaf wasn't going to be when they asked him, "What are you going to do when you get drafted?" I'm taking my boys to Vegas and show up to your pressure drunk the next day. Like, it's okay to be like, you know what? This might not work. It's fine. And I think sometimes it's like, even with
Well,
Brian
it doesn't
Flores,
help
like,
that the
it might
offense.
not work.
Well, it doesn't help that the offense turns it over 3 times per game either. You know what I'm saying? Like all these
Get it
things are
back.
factors in context. You know what I mean?
Then you
That
got to get us at
falls into
least two
these
turnovers.
stories.
Okay, if
You know what I
our offense
mean?
is turning over 3 times, then you got to force 1.5.
Hey, how did they beat Carolina last week?
Because Andy
They
Dalton
ran a fumble. They ran a fumble back.
Yeah, because Andy Dalton's not going to beat you. We know that.
You
We
know,
know that when you put him on the field, he's not going to beat you. No
they
one's worried about Jameis Winston right now because we have enough information to say, you know what, this guy's not going to beat us. Minnesota's defense might not work, but like I said, I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them because I think Kansas City's been playing very lazy, very lackadaisical, and I don't think they're
I
challenged.
mean, just for the record
I think they
though,
need adversity.
just for the record though, you do know Andy Dalton didn't play last week, right?
I was
You out here banging on the red rifle for no reason.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm
Oh, he
saying?
came in.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, he
Bryce
came in
Young,
when Bryce Young went out.
that was the week before.
Oh,
Like,
I'm tripping.
but
I was drinking
all
on
right. So
Sunday.
here we go. Jets Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett against Sean Payton. Sean Payton calling him out. Keep my coach's name out your mouth. What happens?
I'm gonna take the Jets. I think they. I saw people rallying around Zach Wilson on the sideline, and I saw his face. We could talk about the soundbite that he had last year against New England when they only scored 3 points, and they asked him if he thought he let the defense down, and he simply said no. I think the game against Kansas City, the Taylor Swift Bowl, as everybody else has been referring to, apparently. I
I'm
think
going with the Broncos.
people were coming up to him like consoling him, like, yo, especially after that holding call. After the holding call, I know penalties are a part of the game and sometimes they're ill timed. I'm not sure. The way it looked with the hand is what normally happens, but I don't think he grabbed him. I think he just had his hand there. He didn't. I don't think he pulled. I keep covering the camera. I don't think he pulled on, Valdez Scantling. So I personally, if I'm a Jet fan, I will feel some type of way about that call. And I think people were really like the players were really rallying around Zach, knowing that they probably had this Denver game coming up, and they wanted to get a win for Hack and they wanted to get a win for Zach because they might not really rock with Aaron. Like he might now,
Yeah.
he's not doing anything for your team, and his personality that we've heard over the last few years. It's not like he's a great team guy as far as like the collective. Like I don't know if how many people rock with him or if he's one of those guys like Joe Burrow. You can see Joe Burrow at Jamar Chase's wedding, smoking a cigar, doing a Dougie on the dance floor. You can see Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes, whatever, just having a good time. I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers is coming to, you know, Zach Wilson's Milford Palooza party or something like that. He's in them Cougars because he went to BYU. Get your name head out of the gutter. But I think
The
the
MILF
Jets
Hunter.
players that rallied around rallied around him. And like I said,
I'm going
Denver
with
just
Denver. I'm going with Denver. I think that coming off the win last week, the way they came back and won, you always talk about the relationship with Russell Wilson and the players. I think a win
get
like
up,
that.
stand up there and give him credit.
Well,
Yeah,
I
if
think a
Sean
win.
Payton was stood at the podium and like gave Russ credit for digging him out of this hole, which what a coach should have done. No matter if you felt like you did it, you got to get
Right,
up there
right,
and say,
right.
"Yo,
You got to kiss the baby.
three really dug us out of this hole. We fell in early because of my bad play calls."
Yeah, I
That
think the rumors of
resonates.
I
He'll
think the
never say
thoughts
that.
and rumors I think the thoughts and rumors of Russell Wilson's demise, were greatly exaggerated. Like he's not the
He's never
same player.
injured.
He's not the same player that he was. You can tell that it looks different, but he hasn't, for lack of better words, I hate to say this, for lack of better words, he hasn't fallen off the cliff.
Oh, I bet you can
But
say he hasn't hit a wall. That's what I
no,
think
no, no.
to it.
No, but yeah, I like Denver in this game. You better not. You better not, because it took me a while to get to this point.
Yeah, I guarantee you we're gonna
I'm
pick the
taking
same.
Dallas.
I'm taking
I'm picking
Dallas too.
Dallas over the. See, I see.
I just I think the shellacking they put on New England. Dallas is a simple team. Dallas is a heavyweight fighter. I used to work out in this gym, and I remember I probably was like 212, 215 when I was working out in this gym. It was pretty good shape for me. Like, I mean, I'm a pretty thick dude. So like when I'm down like 212, 215, to me, I'm light on my feet. So I'm in there sparring with this guy. I'm bouncing around like, I'm doing all my. This dude grabbed me by the shoulder and was like, "Man, you too big for all that. You need to watch Mike Tyson videos and do what he does. Like all this bouncing, like leave that to the little guys. That's what little guys do. You need to do this. That's it. That's where you live. You just head movement, body, protect your body, and that's it. And I think Dallas is gonna be one of those teams like, you know what? We're just heavyweights. I'm gonna beat
you,
you
you
up
know,
front, and I'm gonna beat you with the run game. I'm gonna beat you with the big tight end. I'm gonna beat you with the big D ends. I'm gonna beat you with the big linebackers. San Francisco's a cute welterweight fighter with the slants and the drags and the draw plays and the inside counters and the Brock Purdy play action where he turns his back to the defensive line and yeah, all that. That's cute. Dallas is just gonna be like, listen, man, I'm gonna hit you with these hooks, jabs, and body blows.
you
I
ready for
think
my
they I think
in-depth
they got that part.
analysis? You ready for my in-depth analysis on this game?
Let's go. Let's hear it.
I'm picking Dallas because it's a regular season game, but if it was a playoff game, I would pick San Francisco.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's my analysis right there.
That's better than my heavyweight. That's better than my heavyweight
No,
analysis.
no. I think that Dallas presents a lot of what Philly presented in the NFC Championship game. As far as being able to pressure Brock Purdy and all that. Because I mean, even in the playoff game, like these last 2 years, Dallas
They're
has
one
played San
possession games.
Francisco to the wire. Yeah, and they both, or last year's was in San Francisco. So I don't think that it's we got to go to San Francisco.
And Dallas gets a shot
It,
at the end zone if they give the ball to the umpire to spot it. Oh, 2
yeah,
years
that
ago
too.
when
Yeah,
they
that
called the
too.
draw play. Like they get at least one
Yeah,
shot at the end zone. You never know what happens.
yeah, yeah. And I think that San Francisco, obviously is a well-oiled machine, but ain't nobody going 17-0. So, like the L
You gotta
comes
lose
somewhere.
somewhere. And
Yeah.
this is like I said, this is the type of team that you lose to in October, just because if if the New England game translates from Massachusetts to Northern California, if they pack all that in the Jerry World private jets, I think they got a shot simply because a lot of what San Francisco does is based off of them having second and three, third
Right.
and one,
Well, it's a lot like
big
Dallas when they first drafted Zeke.
like big plays on first down.
Yeah, yeah.
Quarterback
That's
throwing
what
the
it
ball
reminds me of.
23 to 26 times. Because
Well,
Dak
well
went 23 touchdowns, 4 picks as rookie, and I think he ran in like 4 more and was ended up
mhm,
being rookie of the year. But he played, I think he played the whole, I think he played all 16 games because Romo got hurt in the
mhm.
preseason.
Yep.
So 23 touchdowns in 16 games isn't a lot. But when you marry that with the 4 interceptions and then the additional 4 rushing touchdowns, that's a pretty good ratio. And I think that's what San Francisco has the ability to do. But that only works. That gadget stuff only works 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 2. 3rd and 12, it's you got to drop back and hit Kittle, or you got to drop back and maybe IU on a good run. I'm not sure like if his health is going to be, or Christian
Well, they
McCaffrey. Like you just kind of keep giving him the rock. He's going to keep running to some solid sized bodies on
well, that's why,
Dallas
like, they
defense.
remind me a lot of Dallas when they first drafted Zeke, because I used to argue with the rest of my Commander buddies, like, why is Dallas so good? It just doesn't even make sense when I look at them, and I'm like, because they always got 3rd and 1. That's basically what it boils down to. They
That's it.
win the first couple of downs, but also, you got Micah Parsons on the other side, coming to bring pressure, and I think that some of that stuff. Now, where San Francisco can hurt Dallas is, with those bubbles and, with some of those drags that can hurt Dallas, because if I'm Dallas, not that I'm bringing the house every play, but we're coming a lot. We're coming a lot. Like, we're going to be in
Pause.
Brock Purdy's face all game,
Pause.
you know,
Uh,
and then finally, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, like I said, I think each team can take the game plan of Philly from the NFC Championship game, where Philly ran right at Bosa. I think San Francisco can use that to run right at Michael Parsons, and I think Dallas can use Philly's game plan against Brock Purdy, where they just kept the pressure on, just kept try to get a pass rusher on a tight end, like blocking, or one of those like zone schemes where it's like, oh, it's a rollout, or like they're shifting the line to the left. If they can secure that on the front side, then you can get Michael Parsons coming downhill on the backside and attacking Purdy and pressure him in the pocket. So I picked Dallas because I just feel like this is the type of game after the Arizona game, and then I think this is the
They
statement.
needed a wake up call.
They
Yeah,
needed a
they needed a
wake up
wake up
call.
call. And then finally, I don't know what I've been on, but I'm taking the Raiders over the Packers on Monday night.
I'm taking the Packers because like I picked Josh McDaniels to beat Pittsburgh and to kick that field goal. I think sometimes like you can outsmart yourself in a simple physically brutal game, and you can get too deep into the numbers instead of just looking at things logically. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what Jimmy G's health is looking like. Uh, even if he, like Jimmy G's one of those players because he's so frequently injured. It feels like he's always healing from something in two major parts
Mhm.
of his body. So he came into the season with the foot issue that had off-season surgery that kind of delayed his contract and salary and just delayed that their whole game plan going forward with him because of this injury. And then you get
Well,
concussion protocol.
I like even
It just feels like I don't know if he comes back, and if he does come back, I'm not sure like how effective he can be
Well,
considering his
even if he
injury history.
doesn't, I think Aiden O'Connell played relatively well against the Raiders. Like, obviously, he fumbled it a couple of times, but throwing the football, he looked like he was ready to play. He got sacked 6 times by Khalil Mack. That obviously doesn't help anybody. But, I think that with Green Bay, Jordan Love, there's something missing. Like when you look at the numbers, they look okay. Like his completion percentage isn't that high, but his touchdown to interception ratio is pretty good for a first year starter. But there's just something off. Like I feel like the Packers are always in a position of playing from behind, like and he has to just pull it out of his butt, and I just think that the Raiders Monday night, I just feel like it's a big stage for him.
I just
And
don't think the Raiders have. I don't think the Raiders have. I want to say pride. That's not the
I
right
do
word.
like the fact that Green Bay has the 10-day rest, though. They do have that on their side.
Yeah, I just don't think the Raiders are playing quality, like enough quality football. They're not running the ball well. Yeah, keep in mind, Josh Jacobs was the leading rusher in NFL last year. Now he's averaging something like
Mhm.
2.6 yards a carry. Um, then Josh McDaniels, I'm not sure if he'll switch up his ego for the week to try to get him going to aid the young quarterback. Because if you get 6 sacks 6 times, a couple of fumbles, you got Khalil Mack and Bosa on the other side. So it's just like the Los Angeles defense has always been pretty solid, bunch of playmakers. Green Bay's
Mhm.
defense has a few playmakers, but they're big up front. Granted, he does get this game at home, but most of the people in the stands at Raiders games are transient fans who came to
Right.
Vegas and built in a football game into their vacation. So like if you and
Mhm.
I go, like it's not going to be Falcons versus Commanders. We're just going to be like, yo, let's go to Vegas and stay through the weekend and go to whatever game is on, whatever game is
Right.
playing. So it could be simply just a bunch of people who like football. It's very similar to London. Not as bad as LA with the Chargers and the Rams when they're basically it was like sections of Green Bay fans when they were playing. I just think
Mhm.
The Raiders haven't really shown much. And the same thing, what is it? They start off with some promise, and then they get a player arrested. It's like the cycle for the Raiders. It happens
Yeah.
every year, and it happened again this year. The same thing. They start off with a promise, couple of wins, and then yeah. So I mean, they're a
Yeah.
legacy organization. Everyone's talking about legacy as we transition to this hypothetical statement. We're only going to spend a few minutes on. Um, I saw this on No Chill Gales podcast, and then I seen it. I believe it's another TikToker named Famous Los. And the question was, would you rather have $50 million and 7 rings like Robert Ory, or $300 million and no rings, career earnings like James Harden? And I said, give me $300 million. I say 300 million and 0 rings because for some reason people have made the ring synonymous with like your lasting legacy. And
Mhm.
yeah, Robert Ory has a dope nickname, Big Shot Bob. But if you ask someone where did he get those 7 rings and what team he was on and which team he got which ring with, people don't know. So how much legacy
Mhm.
is it if you have 7 rings and people don't know if you got 4 with the Spurs and 1 with the Lakers and 2 with Houston, or 2 here, 1 here, and 3 here? Like, so I'm not scoffing at $50 million, but I would take the 300 million and 0 rings because at the end of the day, you have guys like Kevin Durant. Yeah, he has 2 rings. Steph has 4. LeBron has 4. Kawhi has 1. Uh,
Is that
who else on the
too?
start? Oh yeah, Kawhi has 2. Pardon me. Giannis has 1 in the Finals MVP. Chris Paul doesn't have one. And people treat them all the same. They just want you to get more. They want you to get more than this other player who had more. Barkley has zero. Barkley can't do anything to get rings now. But yeah, people still bring it up as if he still has an opportunity to go out here and play championship basketball. So the argument when it comes up after the fact is like, listen, all right, I played, I didn't get any rings. That's kind of it. But I played a lot of years. I signed a lot of big contracts. I sold a lot of shoes. I scored a lot of points. I played a game for my job, and that job got me $1/3 billion. So you could take your 7 rings as a role player, because I think Corey Blunt has a couple of rings from the Bulls. BJ Armstrong has a couple. Horace Grant has a couple. He didn't even like being in the documentary. Karl Malone just as disgruntled as Horace Grant, and one has a ring and one doesn't. So it doesn't seem like the ring really solves how players feel about their own career. So I would say, give me 300 million in the rings. Floor is yours. And don't come up with some new math. I see
So
the
if the
hands
question, because like I think the whole question is dumb. Because
absolutely, I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb, but it's fun because we can articulate.
Well, like if you give me the option of, say, I don't know, being as good as, I don't know, Paul George, and I can make 300 million versus being a role player like Robert Horry, 7 rings, 50 million or whatever, then the answer is obviously give me the 300 million. You know what I mean? But if we're talking about, say, Kawhi Leonard. No. Like Kawhi Leonard, versus like Charles Barkley. Like, I think that Charles Barkley is a better all-time player than Kawhi Leonard is. He didn't win a championship. Kawhi won the 2 championships. He's going to make more money because of the era that he played in.
True.
But if Charles Barkley was in this era, and the choice was, okay, make this 300 million, don't win a championship, or make 125 million and win 3 championships, I think that's a better conversation, because when you're on that level,
conversation makes it reasonable. This is supposed to be unreasonable because it's hypothetical. So at no point,
maybe I'm just being logical.
Yeah, you are, and that's why we're gonna spend a lot of time on. That's what I was like, because I understand how people are framing the question, because it seems like as if there's this overwhelming desire to defend players.
The question is being asked the question is,
would you rather have Robert Horry's career or James Harden's career? I think the money kind of convolutes it, because it's like you're looking at just money, 50 million. But I think ultimately, would you rather be the Robert Horry of 3 championship teams that won 7 rings, or would you rather have the MVP solo all-star rock star iconic career that James Harden had versus the Rasheed Wallace career of, I was really good on a lot of teams and a couple of teams won chips, or a couple of teams went to the finals. Like, what would you as if you're a player, like you're drafted next June, and you can pick out the way
I would rather be Allen Iverson than Derek Fisher.
So that's the same thing. That's a 300 million versus a 7 rings argument. That's right. So to me.
But so I think the question is a question that's framed in a way to get the answer that the person asking it wants to answer.
Yeah. But if you look at it like, I mean, I get what you're saying as far as like, I'd rather be like, right now, would you rather be Austin Reeves or Derrick Rose? Austin Reeves got his little money. He's going to be on the Lakers. He's going to be on TV all the time. But people like give Derrick Rose so much respect all the time just because of the amount of time he's been in the league. And I think the money versus rings argument is always huge because a lot of the old heads, I'm not trying to be disparaging, but a lot of guys like
Right, right,
Barkley, Malone, a lot of those players who didn't win rings. You got Russ right now, kind of in the same area. Dame Lillard going to Milwaukee. A lot of these guys, the older heads, Charles Barkley didn't make $300 million. Carl Malone
right,
didn't make that
right.
kind of money. So they're looking at it like all you want to do is make money. You don't want a championship. I did everything I could to win a championship. But I'm like, yeah, but you also weren't getting these kind of checks, nor were you giving out discounts when it came time for you to get whatever number you can get in 1997 or whatever
Well,
number
I
you can
think that's
get in
where, but see,
2005.
I think that goes back to boxing. I think that goes back to boxing. What you brought up and get it off my chest, because ultimately, like taking everything out for a quick second, when you perform a sport, your objective is to win. Your objective is to win championships. Your objective is to win against an opponent, whatever the case may be. So now when we talk about boxing, we can't make a fight because I want 70%, but you
Yeah,
only
but
want to do
those
50
guys
50.
are those guys are out there by themselves. So it's like,
No, I
yes,
know, I
you're
know,
getting trained.
but
But if
what
you
I'm saying though
think
is,
about like Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman has a grand legacy. But if he doesn't win 2 rings with Detroit and 3 more with Chicago, he's just a character we talk about. If he played those games in Orlando with Shaq and Penny for a couple of years and they didn't win anything, I'm not sure Dennis Rodman in a wedding dress resonates the same. But he's NBA champion Dennis Rodman. He's connected to Michael Jordan. This is pre-social media, so now he's everywhere. He's doing wrestling and all. I don't know if he's on. I don't know if he's
well,
wearing an NWO shirt if
so
he's playing for Orlando Magic and they're going 30-52. See what I'm
so I
saying? So
think the
like,
question,
I think it's the legacy piece, not necessarily the rings, but I think the ring conversation is a conversation we love to have, especially around
well,
surrounding
I think
basketball.
Carmelo was the one that blurred this line, because when he went to New York, it was one, why'd you go to New York? Two, why'd you do it the way that you did it? And they had to give up half their team
But I
anyway.
think people knew
And
immediately that when they gave up all the team that he wasn't going to be able to win. The
no, I know
like,
that, but he knew that too. You know what I mean? Is what I'm saying. So I think that he was the one that blurred the line, because I think, and I didn't want to do this, but we always end up here.
yeah, let's
Like
do it.
this ring stuff didn't start until LeBron came along. Like we like when Barkley didn't win, when Karl Malone didn't win, there wasn't social media. There wasn't like all this stuff out there. So like in our circles, we had conversations, but we were still like, yo, Charles Barkley is the man. Charles Barkley is better than this person, XYZ, whatever, whatever. When LeBron came along and he wasn't winning a championship, and all the social media, the chosen one, Sports Illustrated, all that stuff came to be, everybody was like, well, now you got to win the championship, and then when he didn't,
Well,
he
that
did
the
what he
reason that
did.
he went down to Miami, I think, like I said, this is probably our first on air LeBron conversation. I think what happened with that piece, and like I said, I can't speak for him.
Right.
They When he was 16 years old, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they were televising his game on ESPN. He wore
Right.
23. He looked the part. He walked the part. He played the part. And we had this conversation before. It's like if you start kind of getting recently, and this is the recent part. It's partly social media because the 80s and 90s players, it's not so far off in our memory bank to where we can't remember them. I
Right.
remember watching Joe Montana play games. I remember watching Steve Young. I remember Jerry Rice. I remember John Elway, Doug Williams. Uh, I remember the games where it's like the Buffalo Super Bowls where he lost 4 in a row. I remember all those games. So when we started getting social media, guys started getting a lot of hype younger, guys coming to the league
24-hour
early,
media.
24-hour media getting a lot of hype, and people are just looking at the performance of the players. Tom Brady throws the ball better than Joe Montana, and he has 7 Super Bowl rings. But people would say, "Oh no, Joe Montana's better," just because they want to keep Joe Montana alive, because he was nipping at the heels of greatness. LeBron, he did go down to Miami. Like personally, like I said, I didn't like the move, but it was you could tell it was becoming the only, not the only card, but it was the card that the people who were speaking publicly in the media. It wasn't this many podcasts. So the people who were able to have these conversations out loud, they were like, "Oh, Jordan was way better. Jordan could do this better. Jordan could do this better." But if you simply looked at the way LeBron moves on the basketball court, he moves like a bigger, stronger, faster version of Jordan, and so did Kobe. Like, it's nothing wrong with that. But the championships was the only thing that Jordan and it had on LeBron in that climb. It's like, well, he didn't have any chips. So when he started winning championships, it was like, oh, he doesn't have 6. Oh, he lost the finals. He can't be. So as soon as these things start to happen, it's the same thing with Tom Brady. Oh, Bill Belichick cheated, so he can never be better than Joe Montana. I'm like, okay, well, he went down to Tampa Bay with a team that just was under 500 and then won a Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, who's pretty much an untouched golden child. Like, he beat Andy Reid. Everyone loves Andy Reid. He beat them. And it's like, well, still. I think it's just that's more of it. I think people are just more concerned that the
But see, that works. Like, I get what you're saying, and you're not wrong, but it's not like it stopped with LeBron, because once LeBron won, then it became like, well, when's Durant going to win? When's Giannis going to win? So, like, it's not just the LeBron thing. He was just the genesis of
it. Because I don't think people can look at. I don't know if people look at the sport. I think people look at, for the most part, football, baseball, and can say Babe Ruth was great, Tony Gwynn was great, Ted Williams was great, and not have the argument of who was greater, Tony Gwynn or Ted Williams. I think people just recognize that these guys are great because baseball records are like so hollowed, and a lot of them aren't going to be broken. Joe DiMaggio's records aren't going to be broken. Cal Ripken Jr.'s records not going to be broken. Hank Aaron's records broken by Barry Bonds, but people have the caveat that, he was doping. So in their minds, Hank Aaron is the home run king. Mm-hmm. Whereas these new NBA players are going to score more points than eligibility. They're going to score more points than Clyde Drexler. They're going to score more points. Like, Carmelo's the top 10 all time in points. Never sniffed a ring, but he's top 10 in points. Like, those other guys that were top 10 in points, Larry Bird, Elgin Baylor, all these other guys that were up there in points, it mattered to them too. Yes, the championships matter too, but your individual accomplishments matter too. So I think a lot of guys, when they get to this point, that's when the championship argument, because I don't think people our age, when the social media was coming around, were talking about, LeBron's going to get 7 championships. He did that not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, which was just, ill-timed in Miami.
He was just hyping up the crowd. Nobody should even saw that.
Yeah, but I think the previous media era generation is some of the players who played in the era, because Dr. J and these guys still come out now and say stuff like, "Man, Larry Bird would get these guys 50." No, he wouldn't. Larry knows that, but Larry was giving everybody 50 that was guarding him in the 80s and the 90s. So you got to respect that. But you can't be like, Larry Bird's not giving Kevin Durant 50. He's 7 feet tall. Like, I'm not trying to be me, but I don't know if James Worthy is really covering Carmelo in the post. I don't know if some of these guys are rocking with Paul Pierce just because they were bigger, stronger, faster. I'm not saying that they weren't these guys weren't great in their era. So when you have the argument, when you have the conversation of $50 million and 7 rings versus a $300 million and no rings, I think it's a matter of, how would you want your career to play out if you were a player?
But like, I think,
I feel what you're saying.
So like I always tell people,
it can be a short-sighted argument if you are locked in to like, this is
no. But like, if I take LeBron James, 2012 LeBron James, and put him in 1970, he gonna look like a mutant.
Yeah, I'm not.
You know what I'm saying? But LeBron in 1970 don't look like that. No, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying change anything. I'm just simply saying that when people talk about Larry Bird and they talk about Magic and they talk about these guys who were icons in the 80s, they're simply talking about, oh man, he would give Durant 50. No, he wouldn't. Physically, it's not realistic. It's I
But that's
mean,
what I'm
I know it's
saying. If you leave him as he was physically, correct. But if you
okay.
put them in
But
this
if you're
era, they
gonna
get the
tell if
same
you're
stuff that
telling me
everybody in
no,
the era
no, I'm
has.
not talking about you get to genetically change who you are.
Well, then you
You're
can't have
telling
a
me,
conversation then. You
but
can't
that's
have a
the thing.
conversation then.
The old heads are the ones that do that. That's how these conversations came about. The reason
Everybody
that these
does it. You're
no,
an
it
old
was a
head. Everybody
rebuttal.
does it.
No, listen, Dr. J is still out here talking about, oh, my top five is this. Yes, those are the top five guys you played against. No one's knocking that, but you cannot. No one's telling me that any defensive tackle who weighed 222 pounds in 1970
Well,
is better than Aaron Donald in an
I think
argument.
part of
You
that
can't.
is just the ego that comes with sports. Like I don't think that in 2070 Paul George is going to be like, oh yeah, those dudes would drop 70 on me. Those dudes playing right now would drop 70. I don't think he would say that. Like I don't think that
But if you're
like
gonna say anything, you
I
got to
don't think
be
any dude
realistic.
in any industry in any era is going to say that the new era like that's just life. Like it has nothing to do with like you as like a master sergeant or whatever, retired master sergeant. There's dudes that's going to come around that are going to be more innovative than us. You know what I mean? Like just because they grew up in a different era, they're going to have different methods and technology to be able to do things that we didn't have.
They're gonna be
But
able to speak a different language.
right, but you're still going to be like, but yo, war going on, X to the Z, Y. I got these things that they don't have. You know what I
Correct,
mean?
but I
Like
also have, but I have real
it's the same.
credible numbers that translate across the eras. Like I could talk about the just people's overall happiness when we joined the Air Force because we had control of our careers. That's a tangible thing that I could. How many bases you got to go to? How many times you got the PCS? Times you can TY.
Yeah, we had
Times you were.
structure.
How many times you were allowed to get in trouble? Just getting
Right.
just how many times you could show up to work drunk tomorrow in the Air Force? It's a wrap for your career. You're done. No, there's no excuse. No one's gonna look out for you. You show up to work a little buzz in 2005. They'll tell you to go sleep it off. They got you. It's a different era, and I understand that piece. But I'm not saying that my era was better. I'm just saying like this is the era that I grew up in. It's different. I'm not saying that my tech sergeant supervisor when I was 19 was better than one now. But when my tech sergeant supervisor was 32 and I was 19, he actually gave me real life. Like he had a 13-year gap on me and gave me real life advice. Now your
Right.
tech sergeants are 25
Right.
and your airmen are 21. They hanging out.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's a tangible thing. But like the whole 50 million and 7 rings is just the way that people, I want to say they chase rings, but what has happened is guys were winning rings in the 70s and 80s. The best teams were the Lakers, Pistons, Celtics. The Bulls got there in the 90s. The Sixers mixing a couple of rings there. That's what it was. The best teams won rings, and people acknowledge the best players on those teams. No
Mhm.
one shot down George Gervin. No one shot down Isaiah Thomas when he couldn't come back from injury. It was like it happens. You still played great basketball. Gary Payton, before he didn't have to go to Miami and get their ring. When Karl Malone and Gary Payton went to LA in '04, everyone was like, this doesn't even look right. But people want to make it seem like it happened for the first time in 2009. Barkley went to Houston,
Mhm.
teamed up with Drexler and Olajuwon, so they knew the rings were important. It's just that when they didn't get them at the end of their careers, like, oh, it's not that big a deal. I get it if that was your path. James Harden's been chasing rings everywhere. Shaq chased rings for about 10 years
But I think that's
after
the
Miami.
conversation. I think that's the conversation. Like, yes, old ass Barkley went to Houston with old ass Olajuwon.
Old ass
27
Drexler.
26-year-old
Scottie Pippen
Barkley
ran around and tried
didn't
to get some
go.
rings.
26-year-old Barkley didn't go to Chicago. You know what I mean? Like 27-year-old, Scottie Pippen didn't go to Seattle to team up with Gary Payton. I think that's the thing. Like, so everybody when they get older, chases the ring because it's like, yo, I made my money. I'm on my way out. I want a championship. I want to be a part of that. But like what LeBron and these guys are doing is they're doing it in their prime. They're going to team up with these. So whereas like it's a different era. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just different. But when Jordan and them, back in the 80s or whatever, it was this is Michael Jordan's Bulls. This is Patrick Ewing's Knicks. This is Reggie Miller's Pacers. And people owned that. But also free agency wasn't like it wasn't a thing. Like it wasn't as prevalent as it is today too.
Free agency still was a thing. Guys just didn't want to. It just on the surface, guys didn't go play. But Tim Duncan was ready to go play with. He was ready to go to Orlando, when San Antonio wasn't acting right.
Well, a lot of it was pride and ownership. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, with like I said, with this new era, with the media, with the Stephen A's and the Skips, 24-hour.
You got to keep in mind, like back in like now, teams would trade you in a heartbeat. They'll cut you to save money because they're getting so much money off these other deals. So the players are expendable. So they're trying to make these moves to join teams because it's like I want to compete. I mean, Rodman did go to the Bulls. He was part of that era, guys, with the Jordan rules, and he was beating Jordan to break beans out, and they wrote the book, but he still went there and got 3 rings.
Mm-hmm.
So we could talk about all this era, but you gotta listen. Don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. They ran around and chased those rings too. They took players from teams that they didn't like and did the same thing. They went and got the best. He went and got
But like I said, it's different because they weren't. These dudes weren't.
The guy from Dallas.
A lot of these guys weren't in their prime when they did it.
Magic didn't join the Celtics because they had the rivalry.
Well, he didn't need to because the Lakers always had a squad.
It was only 3 guys in that. It was only 3 guys in that upper echelon superstar status as far as a global. The rest of those guys could move. Moses Malone and Dr. J were on the same team. Like the rest of those guys could move. They ended up being Hall of Famers that were teamed up. Like how all of a sudden, how did James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Cooper, Curry, all of them end up on the same team. Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish. Like all these guys end up on the same team. So it wasn't like
some teams are just better.
They weren't stacking teams or making moves to make their teams better.
But I think it was
teams that were getting all the good players.
So Kareem came to LA. Magic got drafted there. Magic got drafted there. Magic got drafted there. Worthy got drafted there. You know what I mean? So it's like so they're more like the Warriors than they are like the Heat or the Boston 3 party. Whereas like, with Boston, McHale and Bird were there. Like Robert Parrish was halfway out of the league. Like, you know what I mean? Like he didn't get good until he came to Boston. So like it's easy to look back with revisionist history and be like, yo, these dudes were stacked, but it's not like the Lakers were like, oh, Magic is over here rotting in Seattle, let's go grab him. That was a draft pick. Worthy was a draft pick, so on and so forth. Like, whereas these dudes like literally are like the whole like Heatles thing, they plotted that like 2 years in advance. Like, that wasn't like
they plotted at the Olympics.
So how can you tell me, speaking about pissing in my pocket and telling me it's raining, how can you tell me that you're putting your best foot forward to win a championship when you already got plans to leave in 2 years?
Yeah, like I said, I did not agree. I didn't like the move, but Boston did make the trade in 2007 to stack their team so that they would beat LeBron and the Cavaliers. And then everyone like, see, he can't be better than Jordan because he was nipping on the heels of greatness. Same thing with Tom Brady. He was nipping on the heels of greatness. Sometimes it's just a matter of people want to keep their icons iconic. And anyone that was even trying to dare sniff that realm, people started shooting them down. Those shots came from the former legends. They didn't start from the bottom. If I'm a like I never started this conversation, but as a LeBron fan, after he was in the league 5 or 6 years, I was not barking up the Jordan tree. I think people started
You
saying, "Oh,
weren't.
I wasn't." Yes,
You
but they
weren't, but
started saying he
they
was better
were,
than Jordan, and they were like, "Oh, he don't have the rings." And then the
bruh.
whole conversation became about rings.
When
It
I
didn't become
ask
about anything
people,
else for every player. For every
when
player,
I
it
talk
he
to
started
LeBron
becoming about
fans,
rings.
when I talk to LeBron fans, I ask them, or they just volunteer, what year did LeBron become the best player in the NBA? So like with Jordan, I think there's a very clear delineation of like Magic was starting to phase a little bit,
1992, the Olympics.
like I would say like that year before, but yeah, in that
Yeah,
window. You know what I mean? Like when I ask when did LeBron become the best player in the league, these fools be like 2005. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting up here like, bruh, time
I'll
out.
say 2007.
I still think
Realistically,
that's early. I still think that's early.
I realistically think 2007. I think
I would say
2007 when he took
I would
that
say
team because
2010. I say
when he
2010ish.
dismantled the Pistons, and
So
that
that
team
one
broke up.
game
Granted,
made
they were
him the
all
best
no,
player.
that the whole team was disbanded after that. Dudes were everywhere. They were scattered. Boston traded to get Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, and LeBron still came out, and the Cavaliers still came out on like
I think he
65,
was on
66
his I
games
think that
the
he
next
I think
couple of
he was on
years,
his way.
MVPs. Yeah,
I think
but
he
if
was
you
on
think
his
about it,
way to becoming
in
the
those
best
years
player. I don't think
after
he
that,
was the best player.
in those years after that, they won
He wasn't even
66
near his
games.
best yet.
I like I said, the 2000 after he lost to Dallas is probably like his most complete season because he won the whole thing. But if you look at the team that was around him, like because for I'll keep it a bean. Dwayne Wade, I thought Dwayne Wade deserved a lot more MVP consideration in
I
that
thought he
time.
deserved it in '09 when
I
he
thought he
averaged
deserved
32
a lot
points.
more. Yeah. Because I thought he was carrying the team. But then when you get LeBron teams to the playoffs, and it's like, man, like I said, we mentioned before when he had Hedo Turkoglu at 6'10 being guarded by Mo Williams, and then you got Rashard Lewis on the other side being guarded by 6'2 Delonte West. It's like this team shouldn't have won 65, 66, 67 games or 64, like 66 games or something like that. Like they won that many games because this one guy was just that much better than everybody in the league. Granted, he didn't have the complete championship season. It wasn't like what we got with James Harden, where he kind of fizzled out and never got back to it. Like every year for those consecutive years, LeBron he kept going back to that 57, 58, 60 wins, just getting his team back to the playoffs. And then when he started winning championships in Miami, it was like, okay, now it's solidified. But I'm like, if you think about it, that 4 or 5 year run before his championship, it was pretty incredible. And then what he did after that. So, but he ended up with the rings. The things that if you think about like Joel Embiid probably won't win another MVP. I don't think because I think he's gonna start coasting.
He do know that you can't load manage during the Olympics, right?
Hey, you can. You ain't got to play the game against Lithuania. You don't need to play against Porzingis. A
Is he
Latvia
going to play if Jokic plays for Serbia? Embiid going to play?
play for Serbia. He should just play
No,
for
no. Is Embiid
France.
going to play against? Is he going to play against Jokic, or it depends on if it's at elevation or what? No,
Nah, you
but
had
but no,
AD
but
out there
like
trying to guard Jokic.
no, but
I
I
get it.
think
Like
I think
the
that
argument, the argument does have a lot of the argument is very chicken or the egg. Like in its fruition and how it was created. And I
what,
think
but the
it's very
same
like
thing, but the same
we're
thing
doing a
that,
lot of argument of semantics. I
but
just
that's what
don't
I'm
think
saying. The same
anything's definitive. I just think if I had to
the,
pick
the,
one,
the same thing that you're saying about, and you're not. I agree with you. The same thing that you're saying about like the about LeBron nipping at Jordan's heels and everybody was playing guard or whatever against Jordan's legacy or whatever. I feel like the LeBron fans did that in reverse to Kobe though. Like they were just like, "Yo, get Kobe out of here." Like, no, he can't be, because like in one breath it's like he's
Kobe,
the
like
closest thing to
people,
Jordan,
Kobe
and
just
then
said
the next
Kobe
minute it's like
wasn't.
no,
Kobe
no.
wasn't. Kobe didn't have the public charisma that Jordan had to care. Like even though he was doing all of Jordan's moves and
He
his
was
rise
better
was
than
great.
Jordan in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he was a lot of his like literally. We've all seen the videos. Kobe just didn't have the. We seen
He
it.
didn't
You know,
have
the
the
Last
machine
Dance.
behind him.
He didn't, but I don't think he wanted the machine.
No,
Jordan
he didn't.
wanted
He
the
didn't.
machine. Jordan wanted the sports car parked out front, and he's walking out with the earring
But that's what
and
I'm
the
saying
suit,
though. I
looking
feel
a
like
certain
with the
way, the ball
LeBron
head,
thing,
the shoes. Because like Kobe's first Adidas looked nowhere near as good as a Jordan shoe, but he probably got Adidas because it was like he probably couldn't get a Nike deal. So
well,
it's
I think
like that.
uh,
That's the difference. I think that's the difference with Kobe and why people didn't gravitate towards Kobe because I
well,
don't think
even
Kobe
now, like the
gravitated towards
media,
that. People are trying to bring it
I
back
feel
now.
I feel like ever since Kobe retired, you know, like way before his death, obviously, I feel like the media was on a mission to like men in black us. Like Kobe didn't happen. Like, you know what I mean? It was just straight up like we
I
went
feel
from
the
Jordan to
opposite.
LeBron.
Nah, I feel the opposite.
I feel like Kobe
I
gets
feel like
mentioned
a lot of
now. I feel like he gets mentioned now
I
because he
think he was
died.
getting
But
mentioned a lot more. I think after the 60-point game, and then he started doing what not necessarily like deliberately, but he started like showing his personality and talking more and doing talk shows, doing Letterman, doing Jimmy Kimmel, doing these interviews and doing Kanye West commercials or having Kanye West in his commercial. I think people then started seeing his personality after he retired, and people started recognizing like, yo, this dude literally was the closest thing we had to Jordan. Because LeBron doesn't play like Jordan. LeBron
but I'm
plays a lot
talking
more
about
like
people in
Magic.
the I'm talking
And the
specifically
media,
about
and the
sports media
media,
though.
it's just in
Yeah.
sports media
Like
started. I
people
think
people like Nick
people
Wright,
started looking back.
people like Max Kellerman, like and especially like Nick Wright being the LeBron, whatever, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say bron sexual, but like the
Yeah, that's weird.
LeBron fan that he is, like Bomani Jones is another one. Bomani Jones, like they like, and a lot of it plays with analytics too, like where they get into this, like if you look at Kobe's advanced numbers and like all this kind of stuff like that,
I
you
I
know.
just I think that the argument was never for Kobe. I think the argument was never Kobe versus Jordan because Kobe's early success he had Shaq. And I
Right,
think people believe that Shaq was the reason for his early success. And
right,
then when he started having his own success as a leader of the team, there was always the caveat of, well, you started out with Shaq and Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson coached Jordan. So Shaq carried you, and then Phil Jackson taught you everything he taught Jordan. So you are second fiddle to Jordan.
right,
Whereas LeBron never had that upper echelon Hall of Fame
right,
big man,
right, right,
MVP big man, nor did he have the Hall of Fame upper echelon coach or organization. So
right.
he was essentially getting out of the mud where Jordan was getting in those early Chicago years. That's why I don't think people looked at Kobe that way because they were essentially saying like, "Oh, you're getting everything Jordan got, plus you had Shaq. LeBron isn't getting any of that, and he's getting his ass kicked in the East because teams are stacked up against him, and it's like nothing to do." So I think, and then when he went on his run, he went on that run that '07 year when he went to the finals, and those couple of years after that, and then when he went to the Heatles, and then the run he had in the Heatles, the flop in the finals, and then the 3 years after that, and then the 4 years back in Cleveland, it never stopped. They didn't stop
Right,
for 11 seasons, essentially. For 11
right,
seasons,
right,
you know, you, he was not like 9 out of those 11 seasons, he was in the finals. So I think that drove the argument more. He didn't win them all, but that time frame, considering that basketball players did get better, the speed of the players did get better, the shooting ability, coaching, all these other skills. Like the guys did get a little bit better. They spread out the talent a little bit more. some teams stacked up a little bit more. Paul Gasol going to LA we still know that deal was a Laker for life deal.
But
Like,
I
I
but I
don't care
also
who
feel like
no one else makes
that's
that
the
deal. Jerry
but I
West
feel
is the
like that's
only
a part of
player
it
that makes
too.
that
I think
deal.
that's a part of it too. I feel like people severely overrate Paul Gasol
No, it's
to
just
diminish Kobe.
but that's the thing. I think people just kind of this conversation will longer respect it, but this is what we do. I think the connection that
It's
people
not like
made
Paul Gasol was Wade level or something.
no, like what it was that same thing of, oh, you had Shaq and Phil, got your chips. Phil leaves, comes back, gets you Paul Gasol, you get 3 more NBA Finals runs and 2 more chips. Even though Kobe was, if you looked at what he was doing on the court, was the closest thing to Jordan that we're ever going to see. It just was never viewed that way because the bookends of his career, you had Shaq to start out, and your success was Shaq and Phil Jackson, and then Phil Lees comes back, and your latter part of your success was Paul Gasol. The trade that a lot of people just was like, come on. I mean,
Right.
they gave him off the hook because they feel like he got jammed up on the Chris Paul trade. I still don't know if that really would have worked, but I think people get, no, for lack of a better word, a pass because David Stern and the league or whatever just didn't want that trade to happen, and then subsequently traded him to the Clippers. Is what it is. But then he gets Paul Gasol from the Memphis Grizzlies for Paul's little brother and Kwame Brown, and like $87 in cigarettes. And Jerry West is sitting up there smiling and just sends them off. But that's the same thing that KG did. That's how Kevin McHale got to Boston.
Right.
What
Al
did
Jefferson.
Boston? Yeah, like they gave him some scraps and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna let the Lakers out of here get better. I'm gonna hook my whole squad up.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that going on, and it was right in our faces. So that's the part that I think that's where the argument, and the argument shouldn't just be LeBron, Kobe, and Jordan. It's a lot. It was a lot of talented players. I just think that the people don't want to just kind of just really look at it logically and be like, listen, there might be a situation where you have to admit that this guy shoots the basketball better than the other guy, and this guy controls the game better than the other guy. This guy throws is more clutch in the Super Bowl than this guy. This guy's a better hitter. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't just tell me, oh, because this was my era, I'm right, and you can't have a say. Granted, most people use a lot of emotion when they have this argument or this conversation,
Right.
and
Right.
sometimes it's ridiculous. Like I saw something today. And it should have been a congratulatory like post. It's like LeBron's going into his 21st season and he has less 3-pointers than Steph Curry. He has less rings than Jordan. He has less points. And like less this. And I was like, why? Like why? Like that's the part that I don't get. Is like why? Why is that the conversation?
I can answer that question. I can answer that question. And then we're gonna wrap that up. But I can answer that question. It's because people had to sit around for years of LeBron fans saying everything, throwing everything in their face, but they couldn't fight it because he was on top of the world. He was winning titles. He was going to the finals. They didn't have any rebuttal. You know what I mean? And now that he's on the tail end of his career, they can get the shit off now. You know what I mean? Is what it boils down to. Because even when before, like when LeBron won like his first title, it was just like, shut it down. He's the best player to ever play. Like whatever, blah, 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 blah. And we was just like, yo, like off of that one title or whatever. Like I'm just being, not being literal right now. But then when like LeBron would lose, it was always this, that, and the other. Like I told you, you weren't one of those people, but people used to tell me, this is LeBron's year. They're gonna win. And then I would say, not with Mo Williams and Delonte West, they not. And then they would go lose, and then people would say, well, what do you expect? He's got Mo Williams as his second. And I'm like, you knew that when you said they were going to win. And that's why I told you about, we had the same conversation about about Colorado. You know, when they beat TCU, everybody was like, "Oh, are they going to win the Pac-12? Is Shedeur a Heisman candidate?" Like, you know, whatever. But then when like they go play Oregon and they go get smashed, like we knew they would, you know, then it's like, "Oh, you're a hater. What do you expect? It's year one." It's so like it's the ultimate hedging of bets where LeBron fans,
fan is short for fanatic, and we're all
yeah.
completely aware of that.
So with LeBron fans, they knew the shortcomings of LeBron's teams, but they believed in LeBron so much, as they should, because he's a great player. They believed in him, but when it didn't work out, they still had this to fall back on and say, "But look at the rest of the roster." And I'm like, "But you saw that roster before the playoffs started. You know, we knew
Yeah.
that
We knew
Colorado was
Delonte
going
West
to.
was 6'1.5", 6'2".
Yeah, we knew Caleb Williams was going to throw for. We probably didn't know he was going to throw for 6 touchdowns against Colorado, but like I had him for at least 5. Like we knew that Oregon was going to smack him up. Like, you know, but
Hey, I
now,
didn't think Colorado would get 41 though.
you know,
You with it though.
but now these same people that were like LeBron's going to, or Colorado is going to contend for the Pac-12. Now these same people are like, "Well, they only won 1 game last year. What do you expect? He took over a mess." And it's like, yeah, and you knew that when
That's
you
what
said that
happens.
they were going to.
That's what happens when you don't start off your conversation logically. If you start it off logically and you stick to logic, you can have a conversation where you have given me counterpoints that I like. You know what? That's factual. I can trust that because I'm not
Yeah,
illogical in my thought process or how I articulated my piece of this conversation. Most people,
right.
like if we like most of our sports group, shout out to Real Sports 365 and Sports Forum, yo, they just literally post these memes, just like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
like all night.
he has less rebounds than Carmelo. It's like, what? Like no one's
No,
what?
all
Why? Like
night.
why are you doing this?
All night. You know, where y'all Justin Fields haters at? Y'all gonna apologize? Like, where y'all at? Like, is he still trash? And it's
Yo,
like,
he's 6 and
yo,
23. So like,
it's like they're
let's get
one
him
in
to
four.
36 and 23.
They're 1 in 4 right now, and they got Minnesota next week. So, like, we'll see.
And
You know what
Minnesota's
I
gonna be
mean?
off that high because they're gonna beat Kansas City. You know what I'm saying?
We'll see. We'll
I've been
see.
doing
But
terrible with my upset picks.
I don't know about you, Mr. Logical, but I'm about to beat on my pillow. 5 o'clock comes real early.
Yeah.
So, yo, Sports Reports is ordered. 2-5 daily this weekend. NBA talk. You know what I'm saying? We coming at you next week. Oh, yeah, look at that right there.
Well,
Happy
we all out here
Indigenous Peoples Day.
celebrating Christopher Columbus. Let's go ahead and get some books. Let's get our
I'm
read
celebrating Indigenous people, you know, but you know, we'll be back Monday. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have some reaction to the college weekend, the NFL weekend. We're going to prep you for the next weekend. We're going to get into the NBA. We're going to talk some baseball playoffs. Go Orioles!
on.
Peace, love, and happiness. 1.